martial exhibition, an event for which the world had waited nearly a decade, finally came to an end. It left almost everyone amazed, happy, shocked, or conflicted. It was not merely an exhibition of skill. It marked the beginning of a new era. New friendships were forged, old ambitions were fulfilled, hidden truths were revealed, and new complications were born. For Bhishma, the day brought a deep sense of satisfaction. For years, he had dedicated his life to making Hastinapura the supreme power of Aryavarta. One of his greatest goals had been to ensure that the devastating knowledge of Divyastras remained within the Kuru kingdom and did not spread into the hands of outsiders. In many ways, his plans had succeeded. The Kuru princes had become warriors of extraordinary ability, and Arjuna had emerged as the finest among them. Yet there was also a shadow upon his victory. Karna had somehow found a way to learn the knowledge of celestial weapons, and had stood before the world as an equal to Arjuna. Such a warrior existing outside the Kuru fold had always been Bhishma's greatest nightmare. Yet that nightmare had been softened, for Karna was now forever bound to Hastinapura through Duryodhana and the kingdom of Anga. Dronacharya too was pleased. His greatest disciple had shone before the world exactly as he had envisioned. Arjuna had become the finest warrior among all his students, fulfilling not only the promise Dronacharya had given to Bhishma, that he would make the Kuru princes the greatest warriors in the world, but also the personal promise he had given Arjuna, that he would make him the best archer alive. To achieve that goal, Dronacharya had taken one of the harshest decisions of his life. He had demanded the thumb of Ekalavya, perhaps the most gifted archer he had ever seen, as Gurudakshina. That sacrifice had cleared the path for Arjuna's rise. Watching Arjuna stand unrivaled before the world, Dronacharya felt that his painful decision had achieved its purpose. Kunti's heart experienced emotions unlike anyone else's. She watched Arjuna earn the admiration of kings, warriors, and sages. She saw her son rise as the greatest warrior of his generation. Yet on that same day, fate returned another son to her. After years of believing him lost forever, Kunti saw Karna standing alive before the world. She watched him rise from humiliation to kingship and become the king of Anga. Pride, relief, joy, and sorrow all battled within her heart. Duryodhana too left the arena, happier than he had been in many years. Throughout his life, two shadows had constantly troubled him. The first was Bhima's overwhelming strength, which no Kaurava seemed capable of matching. The second was Arjuna's extraordinary skill, which continued to place the Pandavas above everyone else. For years, Duryodhana had struggled against both. Through relentless training and determination, he had finally become strong enough to stand as Bhima's equal in combat. But Arjuna remained a problem without a solution. Until that day. In the middle of the grand arena, before kings, sages, warriors, and the people of Aryavarta, Duryodhana found what he had been searching for all along. Karna, a warrior who could stand before Arjuna without fear. A warrior who could repeat every feat Arjuna performed. A warrior whom even the greatest elders could not ignore. For Duryodhana, Karna's arrival was a greater victory than the entire exhibition itself. The world saw the rise of Karna. Duryodhana saw the end of his greatest worry. And when Karna accepted his friendship, Duryodhana felt that fate itself had finally chosen his side. For the first time in years, he no longer looked at Arjuna with frustration or helplessness. Now, he had his own Arjuna. Arjuna too had every reason to be happy. Before kings, warriors, and citizens from across the land, he had finally displayed the skills he had spent a decade mastering. He had fulfilled the expectations of his guru and brought pride to his mother. He had earned the praise of Bhishma himself and was publicly recognized as the greatest warrior among all the hundreds of princes and warriors from across the continent. The years of discipline, sacrifice, and relentless training had finally borne fruit. Bhima also walked away content. Though his contest with Duryodhana had officially ended in a draw, Bhima knew in his heart that Duryodhana could not match him in raw strength. More importantly, the entire world had witnessed their clash. The people had seen Bhima's power with their own eyes, and that alone brought him satisfaction. But perhaps no one had traveled a harder road than Karna. He stood in the arena carrying the burden of two terrible curses, one from the Brahmana and another from Parashurama. He had spent his entire life fighting against the limits imposed upon him by society. The world had told him that a charioteer's son should remain a charioteer. Karna refused to accept that fate. He fought against rejection. He fought against humiliation. He fought against society itself. Even after Dronacharya denied him knowledge, Karna refused to surrender. Again and again he struggled forward until he finally obtained the knowledge of Divyastras. And now, before the eyes of the world, he had achieved what once seemed impossible. He had stood as an equal to Arjuna. The same Arjuna whom the world had just proclaimed as the greatest warrior alive. Though becoming the king of Anga was a moment of immense honor, the knowledge that he had proven himself equal to Arjuna brought Karna a happiness greater than any crown could offer. Yet in achieving that dream, Karna had unknowingly bound his destiny to Duryodhana forever. Shakuni too walked away from the arena with quiet satisfaction. Unlike Bhishma, whose life had been devoted to strengthening Hastinapura, Shakuni had long desired the opposite. He had tried his best to encourage the rise of powerful warriors across Aryavarta, hoping to ensure that Hastinapura would never hold an uncontested monopoly over strength. He wished to create interest in warfare throughout the land and see as many warriors as possible emerge outside the Kuru kingdom, especially those possessing the devastating knowledge of Divyastras. But his plans were outmastered by another man, Vidura. Vidura's network of vigilance had remained alert to every unusual movement across the continent. Together, Vidura's caution and Bhishma's determination ensured that the knowledge of Divyastras remained confined within Hastinapura. One by one, opportunities slipped away. When Arjuna finally emerged before the world as the greatest archer of his generation, Shakuni believed that Bhishma had won and that his own efforts had come to nothing. But then, the arena changed everything. Shakuni witnessed Karna rise to stand equal to Arjuna. He saw Duryodhana's burning resentment, Karna's lifelong humiliation, Bhima's arrogance, Arjuna's pride, Kunti's silent turmoil, Bhishma's hidden fears, and the divisions growing beneath the surface of the Kuru family. Shakuni no longer needed to imagine where Hastinapura's weaknesses lay. He had seen them with his own eyes. The rivalries were real, the wounds were deep, the loyalties had been chosen. If Bhishma saw the event as the securing of Hastinapura's future, Shakuni saw it as the beginning of its downfall. Now he finally understood the board before him. He knew the pieces. He knew their strengths and weaknesses. And most importantly, he now knew exactly how to play the game that would one day lead Hastinapura toward its destruction. Ashwathama, too, left the arena satisfied, but unlike the others, almost nothing about him had truly been revealed. Throughout the years of training, the only emotion that occasionally surfaced within him was his jealousy toward Arjuna. He had watched Arjuna receive Dronacharya's praise, attention, and recognition. Yet Ashwathama never openly challenged him, nor did he seek the admiration of the crowd. He preferred something else: mystery. Ashwathama deliberately chose not to reveal the full extent of his abilities during the grand martial exhibition. While the world celebrated Arjuna's greatness, Ashwathama remained in the shadows by choice. He wanted people to wonder. If Dronacharya's favorite disciple, Arjuna, was capable of such astonishing feats, then how powerful must Dronacharya's own son be? If Arjuna had mastered such terrifying weapons, then what knowledge had Ashwathama inherited as the son who had lived beside the Guru all his life? He wanted those questions to linger in the minds of kings, warriors, and sages. He wanted uncertainty to surround his name. The less people knew about him, the greater their imagination would become. While Arjuna earned glory, Karna earned recognition, Duryodhana found hope, and Bhishma found satisfaction. Ashwathama chose to remain an enigma. The world left the arena knowing who Arjuna was, but they left wondering who Ashwathama truly was. And that uncertainty itself became his greatest weapon. Drupada suddenly woke from his sleep as one of his messengers rushed into his chamber in panic, waking him over an emergency. The fear in the messenger's voice itself warned that something terrible had arrived at the gates of Panchala. Without wasting a moment, Drupada hurried toward the balcony and looked outside. What he saw froze him. A massive army stood before the gates of his kingdom. All 105 princes of Hastinapura had arrived together, mounted upon chariots and horses, armed with bows, swords, maces, and spears. The Kuru princes stood like a wall of warriors before his kingdom. Their disciplined formation, their weapons, and the confidence with which they stood made the scene feel less like the arrival of students and more like the arrival of conquerors. Drupada's minister quickly informed him that the princes had come directly from Hastinapura. Hearing this, Drupada was deeply shaken. He had already heard about the recent grand martial event in Hastinapura, where the Kuru princes had displayed terrifying mastery over weapons and celestial astras before the kings and people of Aryavarta. The stories of Arjuna's unmatched archery, Bhima's immense strength, and the growing might of the Kuru princes had already spread across kingdoms. And now, all those princes had arrived together at his gates. For the first time in many years, fear entered Drupada's heart. His mind raced with uncertainty. He did not know why they had come, what their intentions were, or how he should react. Standing upon the balcony in the cold, early morning air, Drupada felt as though danger itself had arrived before Panchala. After the grand martial exhibition concluded, Hastinapura was filled with celebration. The performance of the Kuru princes had exceeded every expectation. Particularly, Arjuna's display of skill had impressed Bhishma the most. Bhishma felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The future of the Kuru kingdom appeared secure in the hands of such warriors. As a mark of gratitude and respect, Bhishma presented Dronacharya with a grand palace and golden ornaments. Soon afterwards, Dronacharya assembled all the Kuru princes and his students. Looking upon them, Dronacharya spoke with pride. He said that they were no longer students. Their training was complete. They had now become warriors. Then Dronacharya revealed the Gurudakshina he desired. He said that every student must repay his guru, and the offering he sought from them was simple. They were to capture King Drupada of Panchala and bring him before him. That alone would be their Gurudakshina. The moment Duryodhana heard this, he became eager to prove himself. He immediately sent messengers to summon Karna. Karna, unaware of what was happening, arrived exactly as he was. He left behind the divine Vijaya bow and came without his armor or battle preparations. Dronacharya explained the rules of the campaign, that according to the laws governing the use of divyastras, a warrior who initiates an attack must not use celestial weapons against an opponent who does not possess or use such weapons. However, if the enemy attacks first, then divyastras may be used in response, regardless of whether the opponent possesses them or not. Dronacharya made his intention clear. This mission was not meant to be won through celestial weapons, as they were initiating the attack. When Karna reached the palace, Duryodhana stepped forward with confidence. Standing beside Karna, he ordered all his brothers to arm themselves. He declared that they would march to Panchala and bring Drupada before Dronacharya, and all the Kauravas departed. Arjuna remained behind. Knowing the true capabilities of the Kauravas, Arjuna calmly told Dronacharya that he would wait until they had displayed their valor. He openly stated that the Kauravas would never be able to capture Drupada on the battlefield. Dronacharya listened silently.
The Kauravas would never be able to capture Drupada.
Arjuna and the Pandavas remained at a distance along with Dronacharya, waiting. Meanwhile, Duryodhana, Karna, Dushasana, Vikarna, Yuyutsu, Jalasandha, Sulochana, and the other Kauravas entered the kingdom of Panchala. As they advanced through the outer regions and streets of Panchala, they began punishing and intimidating the common people they encountered. Fear spread rapidly. Villagers rushed into their homes, shutting their doors as the Kaurava force moved toward the capital. Soon they arrived before the gates of Panchala. Drupada transformed himself into a warrior. Donning his armor, he emerged from the palace alongside his brothers and his forces. Duryodhana was surprised. He had expected Drupada to surrender the moment he saw the Kuru force. Instead, Drupada attacked. Without warning, the archers of Panchala unleashed a rain of arrows. The sky darkened. Arrows fell upon the Kauravas from every direction. Caught completely off guard, the Kauravas were forced onto the defensive. And at the center of the storm stood Drupada. Moving swiftly upon his chariot, Drupada circled around the Kauravas while continuously firing arrows. His attacks came from every direction. He showed no hesitation and no fear. Then the Panchala army unveiled another tactic. Massive, reinforced nets were launched into the battlefield. One after another, Kaurava warriors were entangled and captured. Confusion spread through their ranks. The Panchala soldiers intensified the assault. Drums thundered, conches blared. Loud battle cries echoed across the battlefield. The noise itself became a weapon. Arrows rained from the walls. Horsemen rode around the Kauravas while shooting from every direction. Drupada and his brothers attacked relentlessly from their chariots. Within a short time, most of the Kaurava force had been neutralized. Only Duryodhana, Dushasana, Vikarna, Subahu, Dhirgalochana, and a handful of others managed to avoid capture. Yet even they could do little more than defend themselves. The rain of arrows never stopped. Among all of them, only Karna was still managing to attack while defending himself. His arrows struck back at Panchala's warriors. He even wounded Drupada several times. But instead of retreating, Drupada became even more furious. Displaying the full extent of his battlefield experience, Drupada began systematically dismantling the Kaurava force. Supported by his skilled charioteer, he moved across the battlefield with terrifying efficiency. Kaurava soldiers fell one after another. Drupada shattered the bows of Dushasana and Vikarna. He wounded them with arrows. Then he killed their horses and charioteers, leaving them helpless on the battlefield. Without even pausing, he moved on. Duryodhana rushed to assist. Drupada broke Duryodhana's bow. He killed Duryodhana's horses. He killed his charioteer. Duryodhana was completely neutralized. One by one, the Kaurava leaders were broken. Panic spread through the remaining Kaurava soldiers. Shouting in fear and pain, they abandoned the battlefield and fled toward the location where the Pandavas were waiting. Soon, only one warrior remained standing. Karna. Surrounded by hundreds of Panchala soldiers, Karna found himself trapped. Drupada's arrows continued to strike relentlessly. Horsemen chased Karna's chariot while throwing spears and shooting arrows. There was no room to attack. There was barely room to survive. Finally, Drupada delivered the decisive blow. His arrows killed the horses of Karna's chariot. The chariot crashed violently. Karna was thrown to the ground. His bow was broken. His charioteer abandoned him and fled in fear. Drupada's chariot rapidly approached. For a brief moment, Karna understood the reality of his situation. They could not kill him because of his natural kavacha, but they could capture him, and being taken prisoner before all would be a humiliation far worse than defeat. With no options remaining, Karna turned away from the battlefield and ran. Drupada watched him flee. A mocking smile appeared upon the king of Panchala's face. He did not pursue him. He simply allowed Karna to leave, and thus the first attempt to capture Drupada ended in complete disaster. The proud Kauravas, who had marched into Panchala expecting victory, were utterly defeated before the very walls of Drupada's kingdom.
Arjuna, it's time.
Drupada and Dronacharya had once stood side by side as students under the guidance of Maharshi Bharadwaja. They had learned from the same guru, trained in the same disciplines, and walked the same path in their youth. The Pandavas understood what this truly meant. Fighting Drupada was, in many ways, no different from fighting Dronacharya himself. Unlike Duryodhana, who had rushed into Panchala driven by excitement and a desire to prove himself, underestimating both Drupada and the strength of Panchala, the Pandavas approached the mission with caution.
Sahadeva had already foreseen the consequences of a reckless assault.
Together, Yudhishthira and Sahadeva devised a careful and calculated plan to capture Drupada. Yudhishthira ordered the commanders to bring specially crafted armor, full-body protective coverings designed not only for the Pandavas, but also for their charioteers and even their horses. When everything was ready, Yudhishthira chose to remain behind. He would not participate directly in the battle. Nakula and Sahadeva took their positions as the protectors of Arjuna's chariot wheels. Bhima moved to the front. Standing ahead of Arjuna's chariot, with his massive mace resting upon his shoulder, he looked less like a prince and more like destruction given form. Then Arjuna blew his conch. Its sound echoed across Panchala. From a distance, Drupada observed their approach. At first, he was confused. He saw only a single warrior wielding a mace charging directly toward his army. Panchala's archers immediately released a shower of arrows upon Bhima, but the arrows failed. They struck his armor and fell away harmlessly. Bhima continued running. He did not slow down. He did not tire. He charged forward as though exhaustion itself had no claim over him. Only then did Drupada notice the others. Behind Bhima rode Arjuna upon his chariot. Alongside him, Nakula and Sahadeva advanced on horseback. Before they could even reach the main lines of Panchala, Bhima struck. He crashed into the army like a lion descending upon a pack of foxes. His mace swept through warriors with terrifying force. Single blows shattered ribs, crushed limbs, and broke bones. He kicked soldiers with such power that they were hurled through the air, never rising again. He grabbed warriors as though they were children's toys and threw them aside. Drupada stared in disbelief. He no longer knew whether Bhima was a man or a Rakshasa. As Drupada struggled to comprehend Bhima's brutality, Arjuna began his assault. His arrows flowed without pause. Drupada's counterattacks proved ineffective. The protective armor shielded Arjuna, his horses, and his charioteer from the rain of arrows. Meanwhile, Arjuna systematically cut down Panchala's warriors, one after another. On one side of the battlefield, Bhima was annihilating hundreds through sheer physical force. On the other hand, Arjuna was dismantling the enemy with precision and speed. Drupada attempted to stop Bhima with arrows. Nothing worked. Fear spread through Panchala's ranks. The soldiers who had once stood firm now stopped attacking Bhima altogether. Instead, they ran. To them, Bhima no longer appeared human. He appeared as Yama himself, the god of death. While Bhima spread terror across the battlefield, Arjuna advanced relentlessly. Warriors on horseback fell before his arrows. Foot soldiers collapsed one after another. He systematically eliminated the forces surrounding Drupada's chariot. Nakula and Sahadeva rode through the battlefield attacking enemy soldiers while protecting Arjuna's advance. Seeing the destruction unfold, Panchala devised another strategy. They surrounded Arjuna's chariot. Conches, horns, and war instruments erupted from every direction. The deafening noise assaulted the senses. Arjuna struggled against the overwhelming sound. Nakula and Sahadeva were distracted and temporarily lost pace with Arjuna's rapidly moving chariot. Then Panchala's horse archers changed targets. Instead of attacking Arjuna directly, they focused on his chariot wheels. Arrow after arrow struck the wheels in an attempt to disable the chariot itself. Arjuna noticed immediately. He counterattacked the horse archers. But even as some fell, others took their place. The assault on the wheels continued. Realizing the danger, Arjuna ordered his charioteer to drive directly toward Drupada's chariot with even greater speed. The chariot surged forward. Elsewhere, Bhima continued his devastation. The soldiers fleeing in terror found no mercy. Bhima chased them down. Each swing of his mace crushed multiple warriors. His path through the battlefield became a trail of destruction. As Arjuna closed in on Drupada, another obstacle emerged. Satyajith, Drupada's brother. Riding upon his chariot, Satyajith intercepted Arjuna and unleashed a relentless stream of arrows. He fought fiercely. At the same time, Nakula and Sahadeva struggled to fight their own opponents while attempting to catch up with Arjuna. Observing Bhima's unstoppable advance, Drupada finally understood the reality before him. If Bhima reached him, his chariot would be destroyed with a single stroke of that monstrous mace. Drupada decided to retreat toward the safety of the fort. His chariot accelerated. Arjuna immediately became alert. At the same time, his own chariot wheels had already been weakened by countless arrows. Arjuna reacted swiftly. He attacked the warriors engaging Nakula and Sahadeva, freeing them from combat. Nakula and Sahadeva immediately spurred their horses forward, reached Arjuna's chariot, and began protecting its wheels from further attacks. Still, Satyajith remained a major obstacle. If he was not neutralized quickly, Drupada would enter the fort, and once inside, capturing him would become nearly impossible. Arjuna focused entirely upon Satyajith. His charioteer drove with incredible speed toward Drupada. Satyajith proved himself a remarkable archer. Arrow after arrow flew toward Arjuna, but Arjuna calmly countered every attack. Then, with flawless precision, he struck. His arrows killed Satyajith's horses. His charioteer fell. The chariot crashed violently. Neutralized and fearing for his life, Satyajith abandoned the battlefield and fled. Drupada saw everything. To save his brother, he turned his own chariot back toward Arjuna. Then he unleashed a relentless rain of arrows. By now, Arjuna had entered the range of Panchala's fortress archers. Arrows descended from the walls. Hundreds attacked simultaneously. Yet Arjuna's armor protected him. His horses remained unharmed. His charioteer remained safe. But Drupada could not say the same. Arjuna's arrows struck continuously. Drupada himself grew exhausted. His horses weakened. His chariot began to slow. Then, with perfect timing, Arjuna shattered Drupada's bow. Drupada quickly reached for another, but before he could even prepare himself, Arjuna's chariot closed the distance. In a single fluid motion, Arjuna leapt onto Drupada's chariot. Drawing his sword, he placed its edge against Drupada's neck. At last, King Drupada of Panchala had been captured. At that moment, it seemed as though the decades-long crushing burden of Dronacharya's insult and humiliation had finally been lifted. Drupada was not merely surprised by Arjuna's skill, he was deeply astonished. Witnessing Arjuna's valor firsthand, Drupada found himself both amazed and impressed by the young warrior's extraordinary abilities. Once Drupada had been captured, Bhima immediately stopped his slaughter. Yudhishthira had made the Pandavas understand an important truth. Drupada, despite being their enemy in this battle, was still an ally of Hastinapura. The purpose of this campaign was not the destruction of Panchala. The Gurudakshina demanded by Dronacharya was simple: to capture Drupada alive and present him before him. No unnecessary bloodshed, no needless killing. Only Drupada was to be taken captive. And so, the Pandavas gathered together and brought the defeated king before Dronacharya as Gurudakshina. As Drupada stood on his knees before him, stripped of his pride and kingdom, Dronacharya looked at him silently. For a moment, everything disappeared from his mind. He remembered two young boys studying together in Maharshi Bharadwaja's ashram. He remembered their friendship, and then he remembered the insult. A faint, mocking smile appeared upon Dronacharya's face. He looked at Drupada and spoke. He said that Drupada's army had been defeated. His kingdom had been conquered.
Look at you now, Drupada. The mighty king of Panchal stands before me as a helpless captive, kneeling at my feet. Your very life now depends entirely upon my decision.
Drupada remained silent. The humiliation burned within him. The proud king who had once mocked a poor Brahmana now stood defeated before that same Brahmana. Dronacharya continued. He told Drupada not to fear for his life. After all, unlike Kshatriyas, Brahmanas were compassionate and kind-hearted. His words carried a sharp sting. They mocked the very arguments Drupada himself had once used to belittle Dronacharya. The difference between Kshatriyas and Brahmanas. Drupada lowered his head. Every word cut deeper than a weapon. Dronacharya then softened his tone. He said that despite everything, he had always considered Drupada his friend, even after the insult, even after the humiliation. He said that everything he had done was simply to teach Drupada a lesson. And even now, he still regarded Drupada as his friend. Then Dronacharya made a declaration that shocked everyone present. He said that since Panchala had now been conquered by him, the kingdom rightfully belonged to him. Yet, as a gesture of friendship, he would return half of it to Drupada. He was granting Drupada this as a boon. Drupada looked up in surprise. This was not what he had expected. Standing before the man he had once insulted, Drupada admitted that greatness of such capability combined with such generosity was exceedingly rare. He asked forgiveness for his behavior in the past. He said that he now understood the mistake he had made, and he expressed his desire to restore their friendship permanently. Listening to these words from the once arrogant king of Panchala, Dronacharya felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The man who had once rejected him now stood before him with folded hands. The king who had once questioned his worth now depended upon his mercy. The wound he had carried for decades finally seemed to ease. Dronacharya released Drupada. He permitted him to continue ruling the southern half of Panchala. The northern half would remain under Dronacharya's authority. With no other option, Drupada accepted. He retained the southern region of Panchala, including Makandi and Kampilya, located south of the river Charmanvati. Outwardly, Drupada departed with humility, but inwardly, he left as a man consumed by humiliation. He had been defeated, captured, mocked, and forced to accept mercy from the very man he had once ridiculed. The world would remember him as the loser of this encounter. As Drupada walked back, his mind refused to rest. The image of Arjuna would not leave him. He had witnessed the stories about the young warrior's greatness with his own eyes. He had seen Arjuna's discipline, his composure, his extraordinary skill, and the terrifying precision with which he fought. Even in defeat, Drupada found himself deeply impressed. He wished he could have a son like Arjuna. Once, Drupada had desired a son powerful enough to kill Bhishma, but that desire had brought him unexpected consequences. The gods had given him Sikhandi. Drupada no longer wished to repeat the same mistake. He did not merely want another son like Arjuna, he wanted Arjuna himself. But Arjuna could never become his son. Then only one path remained. Arjuna could become his son-in-law. A new desire took root within Drupada's heart. He wished for a daughter worthy of marrying Arjuna, and a son powerful enough to kill Dronacharya. Yet a question remained. Sikhandi was the prince of Panchala. Why had Sikhandi not appeared on the battlefield when Panchala fought for its very survival? Where was Sikhandi? The answers to these questions lay hidden within one of the deepest secrets of the house of Drupada. A secret that would change the course of the Mahabharata forever. Hiranyavarma, the king of Dasharna, sent urgent messages to all the kingdoms allied with him, summoning their rulers to Dasharna for an important council. The kings arrived expecting discussions of diplomacy, trade, or defense. Instead, they heard something astonishing. When the assembly gathered, Hiranyavarma rose before the council along with his ministers and declared that they should begin preparations for war against Panchala. The hall fell silent. The kings were shocked.
But why, Your Majesty? Wage war against King Drupada, the father of your own son-in-law?
Drupada was not merely another ruler. He was Hiranyavarma's relative. Hiranyavarma's daughter, Swarnangi, had been married to Drupada's son, Sikhandi. Why then was Hiranyavarma speaking of war, Seeing their confusion, Hiranyavarma revealed the reason. He said that Drupada had gravely insulted and deceived him. Information had reached him suggesting that Sikhandi was not interested in women and was more likely to be a woman rather than a man. The entire council chamber erupted in shock. The assembled kings looked at one another in disbelief. If the accusation were true, it was not merely an insult. It was a deception of the highest order. However, the rulers remained cautious.
They agreed that such a serious accusation required absolute certainty. The truth had to be confirmed beyond all doubt. If it proved true, they declared, they would unite their armies, march upon Panchala, capture Drupada, remove him from the throne, place another ruler in his stead, and execute Sikhandi for the deception. Hiranyavarma agreed. He announced that by the coming full moon day, he would personally verify the truth, and another council would be held afterward. Until then, all allied kingdoms were to prepare their armies and remain ready for war. The kings accepted his command. Soon afterward, Hiranyavarma dispatched a messenger to Panchala. The messenger arrived before Drupada and delivered the warning. Hiranyavarma, he said, had learned the truth. Drupada had deceived him by presenting Sikhandi as a man and arranging Sikhandi's marriage to Swarnangi. Now the deception had been exposed. The words struck Drupada like a thunderbolt. For years he had feared this day. Every prayer he had offered, every hope he had clung to, every effort he had made, all had been driven by the desire to prevent this exact moment. And now it had finally arrived. The messenger continued. Because of this deception and humiliation, Hiranyavarma had sworn vengeance. He intended to kill Drupada. He intended to destroy his family. He intended to kill Sikhandi as well. And if necessary, he would wage war upon Panchala. Fear gripped Drupada's heart. Not because Dasharna possessed greater military strength. Panchala's army far exceeded Dasharna's. But Drupada knew something far more troubling. He knew that he was the one who had committed the deception. And Dasharna possessed another advantage. Its covert operatives were legendary. They were known for infiltrating palaces and abducting even kings from within their own chambers. Drupada feared not only for himself, but for his entire family. The king fell into deep despair. Yet Drupada responded calmly to the messenger. He stated that all of the accusations were false and that there was no truth in those allegations. He spoke in this manner so that his ministers would not believe the claims. He then informed the messenger that a representative from Panchala would soon be sent to Dasharna to address the matter. Drupada, consumed by the embers of humiliation and an unyielding desire for vengeance against Bhishma, had undertaken severe penance to Lord Shiva. Pleased by his steadfast austerities, Shiva had bestowed upon him a boon, declaring that a child born to Drupada would one day become the cause of Bhishma's death. However, when the child was born, it was a girl. leaving Drupada and his wife Prishati astonished and deeply perplexed. Yet, placing their faith in the infallibility of Shiva's prophecy,
We have to conceal the truth.
the royal couple concealed the truth and now raised the child, Sikhandi, as a boy and prince. Drupada and Prishati, guarding the truth as a closely kept secret known only to them. None in the palace was permitted to learn of it. Royal attendants and maids were never allowed to bathe or dress Sikhandi. Such duties were undertaken solely by Prishati and Drupada themselves, ensuring that the deception remained veiled from the world. As Sikhandi grew, she displayed a remarkable inclination toward the arts, particularly the craft of painting and the discipline of traditional dance. Though dance was predominantly instructed to girls, it was not forbidden to boys, and thus Drupada did not oppose her learning it. When Sikhandi reached a certain age, her parents revealed to her the grave secret of her birth, and instructed that her true gender must remain forever concealed. Obedient to their command, Sikhandi agreed, and never disclosed to anyone that she was a girl. She was invariably attired as a boy, and Drupada took meticulous precautions to ensure that her appearance resembled that of a prince. Yet, despite her solemn promise, the burden of concealment grew increasingly arduous as she matured. Sikhandi constantly strove to regulate her posture, gestures, and mannerisms to resemble those of a boy. But often, in unguarded moments, her natural instincts surfaced, and she would unwittingly forget to comport herself in the manner expected of her. As Sikhandi approached adolescence, the subtle transformations of her body began to unsettle Drupada and Prishati, for fear that someone might discern that she was a girl, not a boy. The thought gnawed incessantly at Drupada, his mind ensnared in a labyrinth of anxiety and tension. Prishati, perceptive of her husband's inner turmoil, offered a counsel to ease his burden. Shiva is the supreme sovereign of the cosmos, she said, and his words are infallible. We shall continue to present Sikhandi as a boy and seek to wed her to a princess. Drupada hesitated, apprehensive of the potential ramifications. What if the princess, upon discovering the truth, brought forth complications far graver than those they sought to avoid? Yet, placing unwavering faith in the veracity of Lord Shiva's boon, Drupada acquiesced. He dispatched Brahmins to traverse the neighboring kingdoms in search of a suitable princess for the union, determined to honor the divine design. Upon hearing this decree, Sikhandi was seized by terror. A shiver of shock ran through her mind a tempest of anxious conjecture. Thoughts whirled incessantly. How could she navigate the complexities of matrimony? How might she maintain the secret from her bride? How was it possible to manage the inevitable intimacy of shared life without revealing her true self? The weight of these questions pressed upon her like an unyielding gale, leaving her heart thoroughly beset with apprehension. Hiranyavarma, the king of Dasharna, ruled a realm that had once been conquered by King Pandu and brought under the sway of Hastinapura. From that time onward, Dasharna had remained aligned with Hastinapura. Hiranyavarma himself was a formidable monarch. Though his army was not vast in number, it was renowned for its rare skill and silent movement. His warriors were masters of covert warfare, capable of entering an enemy kingdom unnoticed, passing into the royal palace without detection, and carrying away the loved ones of a king, or even the king himself. By such means, they often compelled victory through fear and demand, rather than open slaughter. Owing to the stealth and subtlety of Dasharna's fighters, many neighboring rulers chose to maintain cordial relations with that kingdom. Hiranyavarma took great delight in receiving honor from both friend and foe. He could endure the loss of wealth, yet he would never pardon an insult to his dignity. In due course, news reached him of a marriage proposal for his daughter Svarnangi, offered on behalf of Sikhandi, the prince of Panchala. This proposal appeared most agreeable to Hiranyavarma, for Drupada was a powerful king, and Panchala was a mighty realm. To join his house with such a lineage seemed to promise a valuable alliance. He sent a favorable reply to Panchala, together with the details of his daughter. Thereafter, Drupada and the Brahmins of Panchala examined the horoscopic signs of Svarnangi, along with those of the other maidens whose names had come from various kingdoms. After due consideration, they found that Svarnangi was the most fitting match for Sikhandi. When this decision was conveyed to Hiranyavarma, he was greatly pleased. At once, he began making grand preparations for the marriage. Everything he had been done in faith. Faith in Lord Shiva. Faith in the prophecy. Faith that raising Sikhandi as a man would one day fulfill destiny. Yet now everything seemed to be collapsing around him. In his distress, Drupada spoke with his queen, Prishati. Drupada confessed that his mind was overwhelmed. Thoughts of war, shame, exposure, and disaster consumed him. He could no longer see a solution. He asked Prishati for guidance. Prishati listened quietly. Then she spoke. She reminded Drupada that everything they had been done in faith toward Lord Shiva. If they had trusted Shiva before, they should continue trusting him now. Whatever consequences came, they must face them. She advised him to perform worship, conduct great sacrifices, make generous donations, and seek divine blessings. If war could be avoided, let the gods help them avoid it. If war became unavoidable, let the gods grant them strength to face it. She reminded him that human effort alone is not enough. When effort is joined with destiny and divine favor, nothing becomes impossible. She urged him to consult his ministers and make decisions calmly. Drupada found wisdom in her words. Though ashamed of what he had done, he summoned his most trusted ministers and revealed the entire truth. The ministers were stunned. Yet they were loyal men who desired the well-being of their king and kingdom. Together, they agreed that the matter must remain secret. They would find a solution. On their advice, Drupada strengthened the defenses along Panchala's borders and increased military readiness. No one knew when Hiranyavarma might strike. Meanwhile, another person watched all of this unfold. Sikhandi. Sikhandi observed the fear consuming the palace, the stress weighing upon Drupada, the sadness in Prishati's eyes. And slowly, Sikhandi began blaming herself. If she had never existed, none of this would have happened. Consumed by guilt, Sikhandi made a terrible decision. Without informing anyone, without leaving a message, without saying goodbye, Sikhandi left Panchala. She intended to end her life. When Drupada learned that Sikhandi had disappeared, another burden was added to his already troubled mind. Filled with sorrow, he sent men in every direction to search for Sikhandi. Days turned into weeks. Every night, Drupada slept with two fears haunting him: the possibility of Hiranyavarma attacking Panchala at any moment, and the fear that Sikhandi might never return. Deep regret consumed him. He blamed no one but himself. It was he who had raised Sikhandi as a boy. It was he who had burdened Sikhandi with a complicated fate. The peace of Drupada had vanished long ago. And then, when his worries were already at their peak, another disaster struck. The Kuru princes had arrived and attacked Panchala and captured Drupada. What followed was defeat, humiliation, and captivity. Drupada was captured by Arjuna, presented before Dronacharya. Drupada returned to Panchala, having lost half of his kingdom. His pride lay shattered before his ministers and people. Deprived of hope, he was left deeply depressed, broken, and burdened by the weight of his failures. Sikhandi wandered through forests, villages, and riverbanks without any destination. To hasten death, she stopped eating. She stopped drinking water. Day after day, she walked. Her body weakened. Her mind grew empty. Yet she continued forward. Eventually, she reached a village. The villagers warned her not to enter the nearby forest. They said it belonged to a Yaksha named Stunakarna. But Sikhandi no longer feared death. In fact, she welcomed it. Ignoring the warnings, she entered the forest. Deep within it stood a magnificent dwelling. A grand structure, unlike anything she had seen before. It was a magnificent white marble palace, gleaming softly beneath the filtered sunlight. Its towering domes shimmered like pearls amidst the sea of green. Crystal clear fountains flowed from every corner, their waters cascading into lotus-filled ponds below. Gentle streams wound through the gardens, filling the air with the soothing melody of flowing water. Countless flowers bloomed in every direction, their fragrance carried by the cool forest breeze. It was not merely a palace, it was a paradise hidden within the heart of the forest. Sikhandi entered and remained there. Days passed. Still she refused food. Still she refused water. She allowed her body to waste away. One day, Stunakarna discovered her. The Yaksha immediately understood what was happening. This was not sickness. This was not misfortune. This was someone deliberately seeking death. Stunakarna felt pity. Knowing that Sikhandi would be terrified by his true form, he transformed himself into a human and approached her.
Why are you so desperately seeking death? Whatever your problem may be, I promise I will solve it.
My problem has no solution. No one can help me.
I possess the power to grant boons. I am a servant of Kubara himself.
For the first time in many days, a small spark of hope appeared within Sikhandi. She explained everything: the prophecy, her upbringing, the marriage, Hiranyavarma's threat, the danger facing Panchala, And finally, she begged Sthunnakarna to save her parents and her kingdom. The Yaksha listened patiently. After thinking for some time, he said he could indeed solve the problem. But there was a condition. He explained that he could use his powers to bring about an exchange between his masculinity and her femininity. He could give his masculinity to Sikhandi and take her femininity for himself. Sikhandi could then return to Panchala, prove beyond doubt that she was a man, save her family, and afterwards return so that both could become what they originally were. For a moment, Sikhandi could hardly believe what she was hearing. Then, to make Sikhandi believe, Sthunnakarna transformed himself into his true Yaksha form before her very eyes. Sikhandi stood frozen in awe as the transformation unfolded. In that moment, she realized that the person standing before her was no ordinary man, but a Yaksha. The person who had walked into the forest hoping to die suddenly saw a path to save everything she loved. Relief flooded her heart. Hope returned. With gratitude and joy, she accepted Sthunnakarna's condition. The Yaksha then performed a sacred ritual. When it ended, the transformation was complete. Sikhandi had become a man. And Sthunnakarna had become a woman. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Sikhandi thanked the Yaksha from the depths of her heart.
From the depths of my heart, I thank you. You have saved my family, my parents, and the entire kingdom of Panchala.
Before Sikhandi departed, Sthunnakarna offered to arrange transportation back to Panchala. Sikhandi expected to see a horse or perhaps a chariot waiting for him. Instead, what stood before him left him stunned once again, a magnificent Vimana. For a moment, he could only stare in disbelief. Confusion and excitement filled his mind as she gazed upon the extraordinary flying craft. Realizing that this was to be his means of travel, Sikhandi stepped aboard the Vimana and began his journey back toward Panchala. Meanwhile, back in the capital, Drupada and Prishati remained trapped in despair. Drupada carried not only the fear of Hiranyavarma's threat, but also the fresh humiliation inflicted upon him by Dronacharya. The weight of both burdens threatened to crush him. Neither he nor Prishati knew that destiny had already begun moving in secret, and that Sikhandi was returning with the very solution they had believed impossible. Losing hope that Sikhandi would ever return, Drupada found himself without an heir to continue his kingdom and bloodline. Consumed by his humiliation at the hands of Dronacharya, he began a yagna, desiring a son capable of slaying Drona and a daughter who would make Arjuna his son-in-law. By the time Sikhandi finally returned to Panchala, many things had changed. Drupada now had another son and a daughter. Knowing this, Sikhandi was shocked. But Drupada was not thinking about any of that. The moment he saw Sikhandi standing before him alive, his heart was overwhelmed with joy. For many days he had feared the worst. He had believed that Sikhandi was gone forever. Then another surprise awaited him. Sikhandi was now truly a man. For a moment, Drupada could hardly believe what he was seeing. There seemed to be no limit to his happiness. Sikhandi then narrated everything that had happened. The despair that drove her from the palace, her journey through forests and wilderness, her decision to die by refusing food and water, the magnificent dwelling she had discovered deep within the forest, the Yaksha Stunakarna who had taken pity upon her, and finally, the miraculous exchange through which Stunakarna had given his masculinity and taken her femininity. Drupada listened in astonishment. A burden he had carried for years suddenly vanished from his shoulders. Prashati too was overwhelmed with happiness. To both of them, it felt as though Lord Shiva's boon had finally become reality. After some time, Sikhandi started asking questions. How was it possible that she now had a younger brother and a younger sister? So much had changed in such a short period. Drupada took a deep breath and began explaining everything that had happened after Sikhandi left. The day before Sikhandi disappeared, Drupada had prepared a message for Hiranyavarma. The message was sent through a trusted messenger. In that message, he denied the accusations completely. He claimed that the rumors regarding Sikhandi were nothing more than a conspiracy created by enemies who wished to damage Panchala and destroy the alliance between Panchala and Dasharna. But that very night, Sikhandi vanished from the palace. When Drupada discovered her disappearance, his world began to collapse. Then came another message. Hiranyavarma had received Drupada's denial, but he was not convinced.
If you were not a messenger, I would have already killed you.
He sent his own messenger back with a terrifying warning. Hiranyavarma declared that he already knew the truth, that Sikhandi was not a man. He informed Drupada that he was gathering armies from all his allied kingdoms. He swore that he would personally march upon Panchala. He swore that he would kill Drupada with his own hands. And he swore that Sikhandi too would be executed. The warning filled Drupada with terror. He personally investigated the situation and discovered that Hiranyavarma was indeed mobilizing forces from his allied kingdoms. The threat was real. Yet Drupada could not respond with anger, because deep inside, he knew that the deception had been his own doing. As the days passed, Sikhandi remained missing. Weeks went by without any news. Drupada's fear only grew stronger. If war came and he died, who would protect Prishati? Who would protect his family? Who would protect Panchala? And with Sikhandi gone, who would inherit the throne? Drupada found himself facing not merely the threat of defeat, but the possibility that his entire bloodline might come to an end. Drupada gradually lost hope that Sikhandi would ever return. At the same time, the humiliation inflicted upon him by Dronacharya continued to burn within his heart. Drupada no longer desired just a son. He desired a son powerful enough to kill Dronacharya himself. And he desired a daughter who could make Arjuna his son-in-law. For Drupada had witnessed Arjuna's valor with his own eyes. He understood a truth that few others could see. As long as Arjuna stood beside Dronacharya, no warrior in the world could hope to defeat him. If Dronacharya was ever to be destroyed, Arjuna should not remain on Dronacharya's side. Therefore, Drupada wished to bind Arjuna to Panchala through family ties and make him his own son-in-law. Searching desperately for a solution, Drupada consulted the Rajagurus, Brahmanas, and the wisest elders of his court. One after another they offered advice, but none of their suggestions satisfied him. Ordinarily, Drupada might have abandoned everything and undertaken severe penance to seek divine blessings. But his circumstances no longer allowed such a course. Hiranyavarma's threat still hung over Panchala. War could arrive at any moment. With enemies gathering beyond his borders and uncertainty surrounding the future of his kingdom, Drupada could not leave Panchala and retreat into the wilderness for penance. During the council meeting, as Drupada discussed his troubles with the Rajagurus, one of the Rajagurus casually suggested something unusual. He said that perhaps they should seek out a great ascetic, capable of manifesting life through the power of a sacred yagna, someone like the renowned sage Upayaja. The suggestion immediately drew objections. Several ministers dismissed the idea. They argued that manifesting life through a yagna was not something that could simply be accomplished at will. But while the others rejected the suggestion, Drupada's mind had already seized upon a different thought. Why search for ascetics like Upayaja when they could seek Upayaja himself? The moment the thought entered his mind, Drupada became determined. If there was even a chance that Upayaja could help him obtain the son and daughter he desired, then he was prepared to pursue it. Keeping the Hiranyavarma's threat in mind, Drupada could not afford to weaken the defenses of his capital by sending large numbers of soldiers in search of Upayaja. Instead of dispatching an expedition, Drupada took only a handful of trusted guards with him. He personally set out in search of the famous ascetic. The ministers were astonished to see the mighty king of Panchala setting out with only a handful of guards. Since no one knew the exact location of the renowned sage Upayaja, Drupada personally prepared the route maps and planned the search himself. Determined to find the sage, Drupada traveled across forests, villages, rivers, and open plains. He firmly believed that finding Upayaja was now his only hope. The king who once lived amidst luxury endured hardships without complaint. He ate little, slept uncomfortably beneath the open sky, and continued his search with unwavering determination. After a long and exhausting journey, Drupada finally learned that the great Upayaja was residing in an ashram. Without delay, he traveled there and respectfully bowed before the sage. With folded hands, he requested Upayaja to perform a sacred yajna for him. However, Upayaja refused the request. Drupada did not argue, nor did he attempt to force the matter. Instead, he chose a different path. Remaining at the ashram, he began serving the sages with humility. He brought water for them, cleaned the ashram grounds, gathered supplies, and served food to the ascetics. The residents of the ashram watched in amazement. Never before had they seen a powerful king perform such simple tasks with such sincerity and devotion. Days passed. Finally, Drupada approached Upayaja once again. This time he renewed his request with the utmost respect and offered 8,000 cows as a gesture of gratitude and reverence. Seeing the king's humility, perseverance, and genuine devotion, the great sage Upayaja was pleased. At last, he agreed to perform the yajna. Moreover, he declared that the sacred ritual would be conducted together with his elder brother, the sage Yaja. Drupada ordered all the arrangements required for the grand sacrifice to be made, exactly as instructed by Upayaja. The sacred arena was constructed. Learned brahmanas were invited, and all the ritual materials were gathered. Upayaja assured Drupada that through this sacred yagna, the son and daughter he desired would indeed be born. Thereafter, The two sages, Upayaja and Yaja, commenced the grand yagna in the kingdom of Panchala, while King Drupada watched with great anticipation, awaiting the fulfillment of his deepest desires. At the center of the sacred yagna, the giant fire burned brightly. Sage Upayaja sat before the sacred flames, chanting powerful Vedic mantras with complete concentration. Beside him, his elder brother, Sage Yaja, carefully prepared the ritual offerings, arranging sacred herbs, clarified butter, and consecrated ingredients required for the sacrifice. As Upayaja invoked the divine powers through his chants, Yaja offered the sacred oblations into the fire at the proper moments. The flames rose higher with each offering, filling the hall with light and heat. Together, the two sages continued the yagna with perfect discipline and devotion, while King Drupada watched with hope, awaiting the fulfillment of his deepest desire. The yagna approached its final stage, and the sages began preparing a mysterious, life-bearing essence. Into a sacred vessel, they poured purified water, nutrient-rich extracts, rare medicinal compounds, mineral suspensions, and specially prepared biological fluids collected for the ritual. One by one, each component was added in precise proportions, while the mixture was continuously stirred and refined. The liquid gradually changed color, becoming brighter and more concentrated with every stage of preparation. The sages carefully heated, filtered, and purified the substance repeatedly, removing all impurities until only a luminous golden essence remained. According to their ancient knowledge, the vessel now contained the fundamental elements required for growth, vitality, and the formation of life itself. Holding the completed essence with great reverence, the sages carried it toward the blazing sacrificial fire, preparing for the final act of the yagna. At last, after completing every sacred ritual with absolute precision, the divine Havis was finally prepared. Holding the sacred vessel in his hands, Upayaja turned toward Drupada and said that the Havis should now be given to Queen Prishati. If she drank it, she would soon conceive the twins that Drupada had long desired, a son and a daughter. Hearing these words, Drupada's heart filled with hope. Prishati was immediately brought into the yagna arena. With great reverence, Upayaja offered the sacred havis to her. But before accepting it, Prishati folded her hands respectfully. She said that she was impure at that moment and requested the sages to wait for a short while. She wished to take a sacred bath, purify herself, and then return to consume the havis. Before anyone could respond, Sage Yaja suddenly interrupted. His face turned serious. He declared that everything they had done until that moment had become futile. The entire yagna arena fell silent. Drupada was shocked. The assembled sages looked at one another in confusion. No one understood what had happened. Yaja then explained. He said that sacred havis must never be refused once it is offered. The moment it is rejected, its divine potency begins to fade. It ceases to be sacred havis and becomes nothing more than ordinary liquid. Hearing this, Drupada's heart sank. Prishati too was stunned. Filled with regret, she immediately apologized. She said she had never known such a rule existed. Without another moment's delay, she requested the sages to give her the havis again, promising to drink it immediately. But Yaja slowly shook his head. He said it was too late. Once refused, the havis could not serve its intended purpose. Tension spread throughout the arena. Then Upayaja raised his hand, bringing the discussion to an end. Calmly, he said that this yagna had been performed under his guidance. It was he who had transformed the sacred offering into divine havas, capable of creating life itself. Its power did not depend upon acceptance or rejection. Not only Prishati's refusal, no one in the entire world possessed the power to diminish the potency of the havas he had consecrated. His words filled the assembly with astonishment. Drupada stood anxiously waiting. Prishati watched with curiosity. The gathered sages fixed their eyes upon Upayaja, wondering what he intended to do next. Without uttering another word, he poured the entire havas directly into the gigantic sacred fire. The moment the sacred liquid touched the flames, the fire exploded upward. Towering flames shot high into the sky. Within moments, a terrifying roar echoed from inside the blazing fire. It was not the sound of burning wood. It was the roar of a man. The roar grew louder, again and again. The entire yagna arena trembled beneath the deafening sound. Many of the assembled sages stepped back in fear. Some stood frozen in astonishment. Drupada stared into the blazing fire, unable to comprehend what he was witnessing. Yet, amidst the chaos, Upayaja and Yaja remained completely undisturbed. Without even glancing at the roaring flames, the two sages continued chanting powerful Vedic mantras and performing the sacred rituals exactly as before. The roaring became fiercer. The flames grew brighter. Then, a shape began to emerge. Slowly, the outline of a man appeared within the fire. Step by step, the blazing flames themselves seemed to take human form. A radiant warrior walked out from the heart of the sacred fire, his entire body enveloped in blazing flames. As he advanced, the fire surrounding him gradually subsided. When the flames finally settled, before the eyes of the entire assembly stood the son Drupada had desired so desperately. A warrior who looked as though the sacred fire itself had assumed human form. Thus emerged Drishtadyumna. The miracle was not yet over. As everyone stood gazing at Drishtadyumna in amazement, the sacred sacrificial fire began to blaze once again. The flames rose higher. Once more, the fire itself began taking shape. But this time, it was not the form of a warrior. Slowly, the outline of a woman emerged from the blazing flames. Powerful waves of wind burst forth from her divine radiance, sweeping across the yagna arena, fluttering violently, terrifying many who stood witnessing the miraculous event. Most of the sages in the yagna arena were unable to look directly at her because of the divine radiance she possessed. Those who managed to behold her felt as though the very goddess of fire herself had emerged from the sacred flames. Step by step, she walked out of the sacred fire. She possessed a dark shyama complexion that radiated divine beauty. Her large, lotus-like eyes shone with extraordinary grace. Her long, dark, curly hair flowed over her shoulders. A divine fragrance spread from her presence, filling the entire yagna arena and reaching far into the surroundings. Her beauty was unlike that of any ordinary woman. Even the blazing sacrificial fire seemed dim before her radiance. Watching the two divine children standing before them, Upayaja and Yaja completed the final rites of the yagna. The sages declared that the son born from the sacred fire would be known as Drishtadyumna, and the daughter born from the same divine flames would be known as Krishna. At last, Drupada's long-cherished wish had been fulfilled. The son who would one day slay Dronacharya, and the daughter destined to make Arjuna his son-in-law. Both now stood before him, born not from a mother's womb, but from the sacred fire itself. Thus Drupada explained to Sikhandi the miraculous birth of his new brother and sister. Although Sikhandi still had the great responsibility of proving himself a man before Hiranyavarma, a challenge he believed he could overcome, another question arose in his mind. Who would now become the crown prince of Panchala? After the Kuru princes returned from Panchala, news of the campaign spread rapidly throughout Hastinapura. Officially, it was announced that the Kuru princes had defeated Panchala. But among the soldiers, charioteers, messengers, and people who had witnessed the battle firsthand, another truth spread far more quickly. It was the Pandavas who had won the war. More specifically, it was Arjuna and Bhima. Stories of Bhima's terrifying strength and Arjuna's unmatched skill traveled from street to street and village to village. The common people began speaking of them together as though they were inseparable. Thus, among the people, a new name was born: Bhimarjunas. From that day onward, the two brothers were often remembered together by that name. The victory changed more than public opinion. It changed politics.
By one name, Bhimarjunas!
Even before the Panchala campaign, most elders of Hastinapura already favored Yudhishthira as the future king. But Duryodhana had never accepted that idea. He always found reasons to oppose Yudhishthira's claim to the throne. Now, those reasons disappeared. Before the eyes of Bhishma, the king-regent Dhritarashtra, Vidura, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, and the ministers of Hastinapura, the Pandavas had not merely succeeded where the Kauravas had failed. They had rescued the Kauravas themselves from becoming captives in Panchala. The contrast could not have been clearer. The Kauravas had been defeated. The Pandavas had achieved victory. No argument could erase that fact. Yet the question of succession itself was far older than this battle. The dispute had begun decades earlier. According to the laws of the kingdom, the eldest son inherited the throne. By that rule, Dhritarashtra should have become king of Hastinapura. But another law existed. A ruler suffering from physical or mental disability could not be crowned if it endangered the welfare of the kingdom. Because Dhritarashtra had been born blind, the throne passed instead to his younger brother, Pandu. Years later, another twist of fate changed everything. After being cursed by sage Kindama, Pandu could never approach his wives in intimacy. The moment he did, death would claim him. Accepting his fate, Pandu renounced the throne and departed for the forest along with Kunti and Madri. Before leaving, he entrusted the administration of the kingdom to Dhritarashtra as king regent. Then destiny intervened once again. Through the divine boon granted by sage Durvasa, Kunti invoked the gods themselves. Yudhishthira was born through Yama, Bhima through Vayudeva, Arjuna through Indra. Later, Kunti shared the boon with Madri, who gave birth to Nakula and Sahadeva through the Ashwini Kumaras. Thus, the Pandavas were not Pandu's biological sons. They became his sons through sacred adaptation and royal acceptance. Later, tragedy struck. Pandu approached Madri. The curse took effect immediately. Pandu died. Unable to bear the loss of her husband, Madri entered the funeral pyre along with him. Only after these events did Kunti return to Hastinapura with the 5 Pandavas. By then, Duryodhana had already grown up believing that he was the future king of Hastinapura. The arrival of the Pandavas changed everything. From the very first moment he saw Bhima, Duryodhana regarded the Pandavas not as brothers, but as rivals. They had become the greatest obstacle standing between him and the throne. Although the royal council, Bhishma, Vidura, and most elders supported Yudhishthira's claim as the rightful heir, there were others who quietly supported Duryodhana. Foremost among them were Shakuni and Kanika. Time and again, they advised Dhritarashtra that his own son alone deserved to become king. Dhritarashtra himself longed to see Duryodhana crowned, but he also understood Dharma, and as long as Bhishma stood as the guardian of that Dharma, Dhritarashtra could not openly violate it. Although the princes had completed their formal education, they continued to practice warfare, military strategy, and the duties of ruling a kingdom under the guidance of Dronacharya and Kripacharya. With each passing year, the princes matured into accomplished warriors admired throughout Aryavarta. Yet, despite all this, Duryodhana had changed. Before the Panchala campaign, he had never hesitated to question Yudhishthira's right to become crown prince. After Panchala, he fell silent. In his mind, he could already hear the voices of everyone questioning him. You were defeated by Drupada. The Pandavas defeated the very king who defeated you. The Pandavas rescued the Kauravas from humiliation. Every thought ended the same way. There was simply no argument he could make against those undeniable truths. How could he claim to deserve the throne over those who had proven themselves stronger on the battlefield? The victory at Panchala had made one thing unmistakably clear to the ministers, elders, and the people of Hastinapura. The Pandavas stood far above the Kauravas in strength, leadership, and military excellence. Duryodhana knew it. The court knew it. The kingdom knew it. And that truth became one of the deepest humiliations Duryodhana had ever endured. Unlike Duryodhana, Yudhishthira never desired the throne for its power or prestige, but he also understood the reality before him. As the eldest son of Pandu, there was every possibility that he would one day become the king of Hastinapura. While Duryodhana spent his days trying to prove that he deserved the throne, Yudhishthira spent his days preparing himself for it. He believed that becoming king was not a privilege. It was a responsibility. Instead of competing for recognition, Yudhishthira quietly devoted himself to understanding the duties of an ideal ruler. He remained in constant contact with Bhishma, learning the principles of kingship from the greatest statesman of his age. From Bhishma, he learned how to uphold Dharma while delivering justice, how to administer the treasury without burdening the people, and how to maintain a disciplined, loyal, and battle-ready army capable of protecting the kingdom. At the same time, Yudhishthira regularly sought the guidance of Vidura. From him, he learned how to distinguish honest officials from corrupt ones, how to develop agriculture so that the kingdom would prosper, how to encourage trade and commerce, and how to build roads, irrigation systems, and other infrastructure essential for the welfare of the people. While others focused on becoming worthy of the throne, Yudhishthira focused on becoming worthy of the kingdom itself. However, the victory at Panchala brought neither pride nor celebration. He had never entered the battle seeking fame. He ensured the victory of Pandavas to fulfill his guru's command. After the victory on Panchala, he quietly resumed his duties as though nothing extraordinary had happened. Yet, whether he desired it or not, the victory had changed the way the kingdom looked at him. Even though he never entered the battlefield himself, everyone understood that the victory had begun with Yudhishthira's judgment. The elders saw not merely a warrior, but a ruler, a man who knew when to fight and when to wait, a king who valued victory over personal glory. His conduct after the battle impressed the kingdom even more. He claimed no credit. He boasted of no achievement. He spoke of no personal success. Whenever praise was directed toward him, he gave the credit to Dronacharya's training, Arjuna's skill, Bhima's strength, and the efforts of Nakula and Sahadeva. That humility only increased the people's admiration. Yudhishthira was calmness personified. No one had ever seen him lose his temper. No one had ever seen him abandon his patience, no matter how difficult the circumstances became. Whether events unfolded in his favor or against him, Yudhishthira remained the same, composed, thoughtful, and unwavering. There was a rare tranquility about him. To those around him, Yudhishthira seemed like a man detached from the attractions of the material world, untouched by greed, anger, or pride. He carried himself with quiet dignity, his mind always anchored in Dharma, and his heart always at peace. It was this extraordinary calmness that made many believe he possessed not only the qualities of a great king, but the soul of a sage. Unlike many princes who remained within the palace walls, Yudhishthira regularly interacted with the common people of Hastinapura. To them, Yudhishthira appeared to possess every quality expected of a king. He was truthful. He was patient. He was just. And above all, he always placed the welfare of the kingdom before himself. As these thoughts spread throughout Hastinapur, support for Yudhishthira quietly grew stronger than ever before. Even those who had remained undecided began to believe that the future of the Kuru kingdom would be safest in his hands. Yudhishthira himself never spoke about becoming king. He never asked for the throne. He never argued for his own rights. Yet with every passing day, without asking for it, the throne seemed to move closer to him on its own. And that silent rise of Yudhishthira became one of the greatest causes of unrest in Duryodhana's heart. Becoming the crown prince of Hastinapura did not simply mean becoming the next king. It meant inheriting the responsibility of the most powerful kingdom in the world. After the grand martial exhibition, Hastinapura was no longer just another kingdom of Aryavarta. It had become the only kingdom known to possess multiple masters of the devastating science of Divyastras. Within its borders stood Bhishma, Dronacharya, Arjuna, and Karna. warriors capable of invoking celestial weapons of unimaginable destructive power. Weapons that, if unleashed without restraint, had the potential to wipe out entire armies, and even the very existence of the human race itself. Becoming the ruler of Hastinapura meant holding these nuclear powers on fingertips. Such immense power demanded equally immense responsibility, and everyone in the royal court understood that truth. None of the royal court members believed that Duryodhana, with his impulsive nature and uncontrolled temper, should one day command such devastating power. To them, only one man possessed the patience, wisdom, and restraint worthy of ruling Hastinapura: Yudhishthira. His commitment to Dharma and his peaceful nature convinced everyone that he alone could bear the burden of such authority. Dhritarashtra understood this as well. Though he wished to see his own son become king, he knew he could not openly violate Dharma while Bhishma stood as its guardian. With no righteous argument left to oppose the decision, Dhritarashtra formally declared Yudhishthira the crown prince of Hastinapura. For Yudhishthira, it was never a personal victory. For Duryodhana, it was another humiliation of his life. Shakuni watched everything unfold in silence. Yudhishthira's growing popularity, the Pandavas' unmatched valor, and the support they enjoyed from Bhishma, Vidura, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, and the people themselves. Shakuni understood a dangerous truth. No kingdom outside Hastinapura possessed the strength to defeat it. If Hastinapura was ever to fall, it would have to be destroyed from within. Standing before him was Duryodhana, consumed by jealousy as another man claimed the throne he believed was his by right. And among the four greatest masters of Divyastras within Hastinapura, only one remained beside Duryodhana: Karna. At that very moment, Shakuni's mind became clear. He knew how the game had to be played, yet Shakuni desired something more. As long as the knowledge of Divyastras remained concentrated within Hastinapura, its supremacy would continue. He had always wished for powerful warriors outside the Kuru kingdom, warriors capable of breaking that monopoly. More than anyone else in Aryavarta, Shakuni waited for the day when someone would carry the science of Divyastras beyond the borders of Hastinapura. Far away, that very possibility had already begun its journey. The son, born from the sacred fire, Drupada's long-awaited weapon of vengeance. With his father's command to master the science of Divyastras under Dronacharya himself, Drishtadyumna began his journey toward Hastinapur. If Dronacharya knew that Drishtadyumna had been born for the sole purpose of killing him, would he willingly teach the science of Divyastras to the very warrior destined to become his slayer? Will Drishtadyumna become the first warrior to break the Kuru monopoly over the science of the Divyastras? Though Karna had now become the king of Anga and was occupied with the responsibilities of governing his kingdom, his thoughts often returned to Hastinapura, more specifically, to Duryodhana. Karna constantly inquired about Duryodhana's state of mind after the disastrous Panchala campaign. Every report that reached Anga carried the same message. Duryodhana had fallen into deep frustration. The defeat at Panchala had broken his confidence, and before he could recover, another blow followed. Yudhishthira had been crowned the crown prince of Hastinapura. That decision pushed Duryodhana into even deeper despair. Unable to ignore his friend's suffering, Karna personally came to Hastinapura to meet him on the coronation day. The two friends spoke openly. Listening to Duryodhana, Karna began to understand the pain that had been growing inside him for years. To Karna, it appeared that Duryodhana had become a victim of the politics surrounding the Kuru court. Bhishma openly nurtured Yudhishthira as the future ruler, introducing him to ministers, administrators, and every aspect of governance. Vidura patiently guided Yudhishthira in understanding the administration of the kingdom and the responsibilities of a king. Dronacharya devoted himself to shaping Arjuna into the greatest warrior of the age. Everywhere Karna looked, he saw the Pandavas receiving guidance, support, and opportunity. Even Dhritarashtra, despite ruling Hastinapura as king regent, had made no serious effort to secure the throne for his own son. To Duryodhana, it felt as though everyone around him wore smiles upon their faces, while quietly working against him. He believed he had been left completely alone. Karna understood every word. After all, he too had spent his life fighting against rejection and humiliation. He shared Duryodhana's pain as though it were his own. Within his heart, Karna made another silent resolve. Karna felt that he somehow had to support Duryodhana, prove his valor and worth, and regain his value in Duryodhana's eyes. Karna assured Duryodhana that no matter if the entire world stood against him, he would always stand by his side, and together they would make everything right. Later, even Shakuni approached Duryodhana. He quietly spoke.
I understand the injustice that is happening to you. I know how deeply unfair this is.
Duryodhana replied bitterly.
Understanding alone will not help, Mama. Everyone understands what is happening, but no one has the courage to speak against it.
Shakuni smiled. He admitted that openly opposing Bhishma was impossible. Not even Dhritarashtra possessed the authority to stand against Bhishma's influence within the kingdom. But, he said, there was another way, another path that could one day place Duryodhana upon the throne of Hastinapura. The hope that had nearly died within Duryodhana suddenly awakened. Shakuni continued. He told Duryodhana that he had always believed him to be the rightful heir of Hastinapura. He had always desired that justice prevail, and in his heart, he believed justice meant Duryodhana becoming king. These words carried enormous weight. From childhood, Duryodhana had always known Shakuni to be his greatest supporter. Among everyone around him, there was no one whose loyalty he trusted more. Then Shakuni revealed the first step of his plan. He said that true power did not lie with the common people of Hastinapura. It lay inside the royal palace, with the ministers, the administrators, the elders, and those who influenced the decisions of the kingdom. If Duryodhana wished to become king, those people had to be brought over to his side. But as long as the Pandavas remained in the capital, that would never happen. The Pandavas had to be kept far away from Hastinapura. Shakuni foresaw yet another conflict waiting in the future. Even if somehow the Pandavas continued to exist into the next generation, the same dispute over succession would arise once again. The question would simply shift from the present generation to the next. Who was born first? Who was the rightful heir? The answer had to be decided long before the question was ever asked. Duryodhana's son had to be born before Yudhishthira's son. Only then could the succession of the next generation naturally favor Duryodhana's bloodline. For that to happen, Duryodhana himself had to marry before Yudhishthira, and he had to produce an heir before Yudhishthira could. Thinking several moves ahead, Shakuni informed Duryodhana of a grand Swayamvara that was soon to be held in the kingdom of Kalinga. Shakuni saw in that Swayamvara far more than a marriage. He saw the first step towards securing Duryodhana's future and the future of his lineage. King Chitrangada of Kalinga announced the Swayamvara of his daughter, Princess Bhanumati. The grand ceremony was held in Srimadrajapura, the capital of the Kalinga kingdom. Kings and princes from every direction of Aryavarta gathered to seek the hand of the Kalinga princess. Mighty rulers, renowned warriors, and heirs to powerful kingdoms filled the magnificent assembly hall. According to the custom of Swayamvara, Bhanumati would walk through the assembly carrying a garland in her hands and choose her husband by placing it around the neck of the man she desired. Among those who attended were Duryodhana and Karna. Karna sat silently beside his friend while Duryodhana confidently observed the gathering. He saw many famous kings and warriors assembled there. Yet not once did he doubt himself. He was convinced that Bhanumati would choose him. At last, the princess entered the hall. Holding the ceremonial garland, Bhanumati slowly began walking past one prince after another. The entire assembly watched in anticipation. Eventually, she arrived before Duryodhana. She paused. Seeing her stop before him, Duryodhana became certain that he had been chosen. Confidently, he rose from his seat. But the very next moment, Bhanumati walked past him. The entire hall erupted in laughter. Kings and princes openly mocked Duryodhana for the humiliation he had just suffered. The insult ignited his fury. Without a moment's hesitation, Duryodhana strode toward Bhanumati, seized her, lifted her onto his shoulder, and walked out of the Swayamvara hall. The kings and princes immediately drew their weapons and rushed to stop Duryodhana. However, Karna intervened and stood in their path. Releasing a single divine arrow from his bow, it instantly multiplied into hundreds of celestial arrows, interlocking to form an impenetrable, cage-like wall that completely blocked the palace exit. By the time everyone realized that Duryodhana was abducting the princess, he had already reached his chariot and departed at full speed. Karna immediately mounted his own chariot and followed close behind. The assembled kings and princes rushed outside. Preparing their chariots would take too long. Without wasting another moment, they mounted their horses and began pursuing Duryodhana. As they closed the distance, arrows struck Duryodhana's chariot from every direction. Bhanumati was frightened, but she felt reassured by Duryodhana's calm concern for her safety. The mighty, manly Duryodhana also has a soft heart. She liked it. Karna took up his bow and released a single arrow toward the pursuing riders. The arrow instantly multiplied into hundreds of celestial arrows. Every incoming arrow was shattered in mid-air before it could travel any farther. The pursuing kings were astonished. Only then did they fully understand. Karna was not merely accompanying Duryodhana, he was protecting him. Still, none of them gave up. They continued their pursuit, releasing relentless volleys of arrows. Karna answered every attack effortlessly. His arrows multiplied into hundreds in the sky, intercepting every missile launched toward Duryodhana. Each exchange appeared effortless. After every successful interception, Karna smiled. Sometimes he even laughed. To him, the battle seemed little more than a game. His laughter only enraged the pursuing warriors further. Determined to overcome him, they continued firing without pause. The chase stretched across a great distance. Gradually, exhaustion began taking its toll. Some horses collapsed from fatigue. Some princes abandoned the pursuit altogether. Yet a determined group continued chasing Duryodhana. Finally, Duryodhana looked back and said, "Enough of this play, Karna. Finish it." Karna smiled. "As you wish." He drew a single arrow. With calm precision, he released it toward the sky. As it soared upward, that single arrow transformed into hundreds. Within moments, a deadly rain of arrows descended upon the pursuing warriors. The battlefield fell silent. The arrows struck without hesitation. Warriors fell. Horses collapsed. The pursuit ended instantly. Without another obstacle in his path, Duryodhana carried Bhanumati safely to Hastinapura. Those who survived eventually returned to Srimad Rajapura and reported everything that had happened. King Chitrangada was left stunned. The assembled kings and princes could scarcely believe the power they had witnessed. They had not merely failed to stop Duryodhana. They had been utterly overwhelmed by a single warrior, Karna. Fear and helplessness spread throughout the assembly. But among them sat one man whose reaction was entirely different. He was neither frightened nor humiliated. Instead, a faint smile appeared upon his face. Listening to the descriptions of Karna's astonishing valor, he felt something unexpected. Admiration. That man was Jarasandha. After restoring some hope within Duryodhana, Karna returned to Anga. Satisfied that he had stood by his friend during one of the most important moments of his life, Karna immersed himself once again in the responsibilities of ruling his kingdom. Days passed peacefully. As king of Anga, receiving messengers from neighboring kingdoms is a routine part of his daily life. But this day, a messenger unlike any other arrived. He had come from Magadha. The very name was enough to change the atmosphere inside the royal court. Magadha was no ordinary kingdom. It was one of the mightiest empires in Aryavarta. The ministers exchanged uneasy glances. Even Karna became curious. The messenger stepped forward and announced that he carried a message from the mighty Samrat of Magadha, Jarasandha. Silence filled the court. The messenger then delivered Jarasandha's words. He declared that in the presence of Jarasandha, Duryodhana and Karna had insulted King Chitrangada and every ruler present at the Kalinga Swayamvara by abducting Princess Bhanumati. And though Duryodhana was the one who abducted Bhanumati, it was Karna who had made that abduction possible. Therefore, Jarasandha challenged Karna to a duel. He invited him to Magadha. The moment those words were spoken, anxiety spread throughout the court. The ministers were visibly shaken. Jarasandha was renowned as an undefeated titan of wrestling. Many kingdoms had fallen beneath his authority after their kings and champions were defeated by him in single combat. The ministers immediately advised Karna to reject the challenge. They advised that Jarasandha was too wise to wage war against Anga merely because a duel had been refused. They reasoned that after hearing of Karna's extraordinary valor at Kalinga, even Jarasandha would hesitate to risk a full-scale conflict. There was nothing to gain and everything to lose. But Karna had already made a promise to himself after the Panchala campaign. He would never step back from a challenge, not from anyone, not under any circumstances. Without the slightest hesitation, Karna turned toward the messenger. He calmly declared that he accepted Jarasandha's challenge. Very soon, he would personally come to Magadha. The messenger bowed and departed. The court remained silent. The ministers looked at one another in disbelief. They knew Karna's courage, but they also knew the terrifying reputation of Jarasandha. As Karna stood calm and fearless, everyone else in the royal court could think of only one thing: Karna's life. And what would become of the kingdom of Anga if Jarasandha won the duel and brought it under his control? After accepting Jarasandha's challenge, Karna did not immediately leave for Magadha. He knew this would not be an ordinary duel. He was about to face the strongest man alive in hand-to-hand combat. Karna began preparing himself with absolute dedication. Day after day, he subjected his body to relentless training, pushing his strength, endurance, and wrestling skills beyond their limits. But Karna believed that strength alone would not defeat a warrior like Jarasandha. He needed knowledge. He began studying everything he could about the Samrat of Magadha. His victories, his methods, his strengths. Karna studied Jarasandha's life. The more he learned, the more impressed he became. Jarasandha had not built the greatest empire of his time through endless wars. He had conquered kingdoms with intelligence.
No needless wars, and still an empire.
As the mighty son of King Drupada, Jarasandha ruled Magadha with an iron grip. Blessed with extraordinary physical strength, he dreamed of bringing the whole of Bharata under a single empire. But unlike most conquerors, Jarasandha did not wage ordinary wars. Whenever he desired a kingdom, he challenged its ruler to a wrestling duel. The conditions were simple. The defeated king, whether it's Jarasandha or his opponent, had to surrender his kingdom, his army, and his treasury to the winner. If a king was too old or physically incapable of fighting, he was permitted to send the greatest wrestler or champion from his kingdom to fight on his behalf. Many rulers accepted these challenges. A single duel spared thousands of soldiers from dying on the battlefield. Rejecting the challenge, on the other hand, would brand a king as a coward before his own people. Jarasandha used this strategy with remarkable brilliance. One kingdom after another fell under his control. Every victory added another army to Magadha. Every surrendered kingdom strengthened his empire further. His military grew into one of the largest in all of Bharata. Jarasandha's genius as a strategist rivaled only his overwhelming physical strength. His rise became so dominant that it forced King Pandu himself to undertake his legendary Digvijaya. During this period, the very name of Jarasandha sent a wave of fear across the entire Bharata Khanda. Many rulers surrendered to him even before he could send them a challenge. Jarasandha, in turn, allowed those kings to continue ruling their kingdoms, but only as his subordinate rulers, governing under the authority of Magadha. It was these very kings who had once submitted to Jarasandha without a fight that King Pandu later defeated during his legendary conquest, breaking Magadha's growing sphere of influence. If Pandu had not conquered the surrounding kingdoms during his campaign, Jarasandha would eventually have surrounded Hastinapura on every side with territories loyal to Magadha. The Kuru kingdom would have found itself completely encircled, and long before the Kuru princes were even born, Hastinapura itself might have been forced to surrender before the mighty empire of Magadha. After King Pandu's conquest, Jarasandha remained quiet for some time. Later, consumed by a deep desire for revenge against the man who had killed his son-in-law, he began gathering vast armies and repeatedly invaded his kingdom, launching 17 campaigns over the course of a decade. Karna was impressed to learn how Jarasandha had risen from ruling a single kingdom to conquering half the continent without waging a single war. The grand arena was prepared in Girivrajapura, the capital of the mighty Magadha Empire. Excitement swept across the entire city. The people eagerly awaited the duel, for their legendary emperor, Samrat Jarasandha, was entering a duel after many years. This was no ordinary wrestling match. It was a duel. The competitors were free to fight using any weapon of their choice. They could change weapons at any point during the contest, or abandon weapons altogether and engage in hand-to-hand combat using punches, kicks, grappling, or wrestling. There were no restrictions on the style of combat. Only one objective remained: to prove who was the superior warrior. Jarasandha entered the arena carrying the pride and arrogance of a warrior who had never known defeat. Undefeated throughout his life, he had personally chosen this opponent after nearly a decade, believing that only Karna was worthy of standing before him. From the opposite side entered Karna. Unlike Jarasandha, Karna stepped into the arena with everything at stake. Not only the kingdom of Anga, but his very life. As the duel began, both warriors locked together, each trying to overpower the other. Jarasandha soon realized that Karna was far stronger than he had expected. Using superior technique and balance, Karna stood toe-to-toe with Jarasandha, which only made Jarasandha angrier. Pushing with his strength, Jarasandha suddenly lifted Karna into the air as though he weighed nothing. Surprise flashed across Karna's face. Recovered instantly, Karna charged straight back at Jarasandha and drove him to the ground. Now, it was Jarasandha's turn to be surprised. Jarasandha stopped taking Karna lightly. He began displaying the true extent of his monstrous strength. With effortless power, he threw Karna violently onto the ground. Karna immediately got back to his feet and charged once again. But Jarasandha was ready. He caught Karna a second time and hurled him back to the ground with even greater force. The impact sent pain through Karna's entire body. Jarasandha wrapped his massive arms around Karna, locking him in a crushing hold like a giant python coiling around a deer. But Karna was no deer. His divine natural kavacha absorbed the terrifying pressure. The bone-crushing strength that had broken countless warriors failed to break Karna. Jarasandha did not back down. Whenever he got the chance, he relentlessly slammed Karna onto the ground. Although Karna occasionally managed to take Jarasandha down using the techniques he had recently learned, it had little effect on him. Jarasandha unleashed his full power. With his immense raw strength and decades of wrestling experience, he swung and hurled Karna to the ground repeatedly as though he were a mere doll. Every movement carried tremendous force. Every throw shook the arena. Time after time, he lifted Karna and hurled him through the air as though he were nothing more than a doll. Karna's punches landed with tremendous force. His kicks were swift and powerful, yet none of them seemed to affect Jarasandha in the slightest. Whenever Karna attempted a powerful kick, Jarasandha would seize his leg in an instant. With terrifying ease, he would lift Karna off the ground and slam him back into the arena. Again and again, Karna crashed to the earth. Again and again, he rose back to his feet. The relentless punishment would have broken the spirit of an ordinary warrior. But Karna refused to stay down. Every time Jarasandha threw him to the ground, Karna stood up once more and charged back into the fight. Jarasandha caught Karna in a crushing hold, choking his neck with such force that it threatened either to kill him or render him unconscious. Karna struggled with all his might to break free, but he could not overpower Jarasandha. As the pressure tightened, hope slowly began to fade, and Karna was on the verge of losing consciousness. Then, a detail he had once read about Jarasandha flashed through his mind, a detail that had caught his attention. Jarasandha had not been born in the ordinary way. He was born as two separate halves to two different women, and only after the two halves were joined together did life enter his body. Clinging to that final hope, Karna summoned every ounce of his remaining strength and broke free from Jarasandha's hold. Karna changed his strategy. Instead of standing toe-to-toe against Jarasandha's supernatural strength, he began constantly moving around the arena, avoiding Jarasandha's grasp while repeatedly targeting his legs. Moreover, Karna's natural golden armor protected him from the full impact of Jarasandha's deadly punches and kicks. Karna focused his attacks on Jarasandha's legs, striking repeatedly in an attempt to weaken his balance and mobility. Protected by his celestial armor, Karna endured the blows and continued moving relentlessly, refusing to give Jarasandha another opportunity to lock him in a crushing hold. As Jarasandha's legs began to weaken, Karna leapt onto his shoulders and attempted to choke him. But Jarasandha easily overpowered Karna, broke free from the hold, and hurled him away with tremendous force. Karna realized that Jarasandha still possessed strength in his legs and inexhaustible stamina. Continuing to stay out of Jarasandha's grasp, Karna moved constantly around the arena. Again and again, he targeted Jarasandha's legs with powerful kicks, striking the same areas repeatedly. His objective was no longer to overpower Jarasandha. It was to tire him. When Jarasandha dropped to one knee, he leapt onto Jarasandha's shoulders once again and locked him tightly with his legs. Yet Jarasandha once again overpowered Karna, broke free from the hold, and hurled him away. Undeterred, Karna resumed his strategy of relentlessly attacking Jarasandha's legs continuously. He was caught by Jarasandha. With his immense strength, he swung Karna through the air and slammed him onto the ground with tremendous force. Again, Jarasandha took control of the fight. Though his injured leg was clearly slowing him down, he summoned every ounce of strength he had left. He manhandled Karna mercilessly. Again and again he swung Karna through the air and slammed him violently into the ground. Each throw seemed more brutal than the last. Yet Karna refused to stay down. It was time for Karna's final strategy. If not now, it would be never. His plan was to weaken Jarasandha's legs, exhaust him completely, and then tear his body apart from the legs to the head, splitting him into two halves, just as he had been born. But it was not so easy. Jarasandha kicked Karna away with tremendous force. Yet Karna was not a man who would give up when victory was within his grasp. Summoning every ounce of strength he had left, Karna took Jarasandha down once more and with all his might began tearing his body apart into two halves from the legs to the head. Jarasandha realized that Karna possessed the strength to tear him completely into two halves. Unable to endure the agony any longer, he surrendered and accepted defeat. For the first time in his life, the undefeated Emperor of Magadha found himself unable to continue. At that very moment, Jarasandha was not only defeated, he was deeply impressed. He had never witnessed such extraordinary endurance. Accepting his defeat with grace, Jarasandha embraced Karna before the entire arena. Deeply impressed by Karna's unmatched endurance, strength, and indomitable will, he praised him as an extraordinary warrior. As a mark of honor and friendship, Jarasandha gifted Karna the city of Malini. As the mighty Jarasandha publicly acknowledged Karna's greatness before the entire arena, Karna's fame spread across Aryavarta with astonishing speed. Every kingdom began speaking of the warrior who had accomplished what no one before him had ever achieved. For the first time in history, Jarasandha had been defeated in a duel. As the story traveled from kingdom to kingdom, the details began to change. Some narrated that the duel had begun with swords. When both swords broke, they fought with spears. When the spears shattered, they continued with bows and arrows. When every weapon was exhausted, they entered hand-to-hand combat, where Karna finally defeated the mighty Emperor of Magadha. Others argued that Jarasandha had not fought a wrestling duel for many years and was no longer at the peak of his form. According to them, that alone had allowed Karna to prevail. Still others declared that Karna himself had become the strongest warrior in Aryavarta, the next Jarasandha of his generation. Rumors differed from kingdom to kingdom. Every storyteller had a different version. But one fact remained unchanged in every narration. Karna had become the first warrior in history to defeat the undefeated emperor of Magadha, Jarasandha. From that day onward, his name echoed across Aryavarta with greater glory than ever before. When Karna returned to Anga, the atmosphere throughout the kingdom had completely changed. The people of Anga welcomed their king with overwhelming joy. The streets were decorated for his arrival. Citizens showered him with flowers as he entered the capital. The air echoed with cheers praising the king of Anga. Among the ministers and nobles of the royal court, respect for Karna rose to an entirely new level. They no longer saw him merely as the king of Anga. They saw him as the warrior who had achieved the impossible and made their kingdom one of the greatest in the continent. The Rajagurus and learned Brahmanas of the kingdom came forward to bless him. They praised Karna's unmatched courage, endurance, and warrior spirit, declaring that his victory had brought immeasurable honor not only to Anga, but to its people as well. The kings of Kurusha, Anupa, Avanti, and the other allied kingdoms soon received urgent messages from Hiranyavarma. The message carried only one conclusion. The truth had been confirmed. Sikhandi was not a man, and the time had come to wage war against Panchala. The kings were taken aback. Though many of them hesitated to march against one of the mightiest kingdoms in Aryavarta, none wished to ignore the humiliation inflicted upon Hiranyavarma by Drupada. One after another, they accepted the call to arms. Preparations for war began immediately. Warriors from every corner of their kingdoms were summoned to the capital. Blacksmiths worked day and night, forging swords, spears, maces, shields, and countless arrows. Horses were trained and saddled for battle. War elephants were armored and readied for the march. Massive siege engines and colossal war machines capable of breaching fortress walls were constructed and prepared. The armies drilled relentlessly. Warriors sharpened their skills through rigorous training, knowing they were preparing to face one of the most powerful realms on the continent. A great storm of war was slowly gathering, and its destination was Panchala. Hiranyavarma convened a royal council with his ministers to discuss the strategic movement of the impending war against Panchala. The final strategy remained to be decided. While the council was in progress, the doors of the royal court suddenly opened. To everyone's astonishment, Sikhandi himself walked into the assembly. The ministers, generals, and palace attendants stared in disbelief. Standing before them was a man unlike the Sikhandi they had last seen, a visible beard upon his face. His appearance and attire were unmistakably masculine.
How dare you come and stand before me?
I understand your anger, but everything you have heard about me is nothing but rumors. I am a man, and no one else can prove that to you except me.
Hiranyavarma summoned women from the royal household to determine the truth beyond any doubt.
Go with them. They shall decide the fate of Panchala.
After some time, they returned. Their conclusion was unequivocal. Sikhandi was indeed a man. For a few moments, Hiranyavarma stood speechless. He was not merely surprised. He felt deeply humiliated. He had trusted rumors without verifying them. He had nearly plunged kingdoms into war based upon false assumptions. Yet alongside that humiliation came immense relief. His daughter's marriage had been preserved. There was no deception after all. Without delay, Hiranyavarma dispatched urgent messengers to every allied kingdom. The order was immediate. The campaign against Panchala was cancelled. The war was over before it had begun. Hiranyavarma then personally apologized to Sikhandi for the insult and misunderstanding. He respectfully sent his daughter, Swarnangi, back to Panchala along with her husband.
Marswanadi.
Not long afterward, Hiranyavarma himself journeyed to Panchala. In the presence of King Drupada, he presented Sikhandi with magnificent gifts: war elephants, fine horses, countless cows, and loyal servants, as a public gesture of apology and goodwill. Drupada accepted the gifts with satisfaction. The misunderstanding between the two kingdoms appeared to have come to an end. Hiranyavarma then returned peacefully to Dasharna. Drupada was relieved, but Sikhandi was not. Seeing the sorrow upon Sikhandi's face, Drupada sought to understand the reason. Sikhandi revealed the painful truth. Everything that had happened was only temporary. Swarnangi had returned. The war had been prevented, but none of it could last. Sooner or later, Sikhandi would have to return to Stunakarna, restore his masculinity to him, and once again become a woman. Those words shattered Drupada's relief. Once again, the future of Panchala became uncertain. If Sikhandi returned to his former state, what would happen when Hiranyavarma discovered the truth again? The burden that had briefly lifted now returned to Drupada's heart. At that moment, Prishati strengthened both Drupada and Sikhandi. She reminded them that every word spoken by Lord Shiva had come true, exactly as promised. She urged them to continue placing their complete faith in the Lord and to perform whatever Dharma demanded, leaving the rest to destiny. Still, the question remained: should Sikhandi return to Stunakarna or not? Drupada gathered only his most trusted ministers, the few who knew the entire truth. A difficult discussion followed. If Sikhandi returned Stunakarna's masculinity, Hiranyavarma would almost certainly discover the truth once again. This time, after everything that had happened, war would be inevitable. Drupada now fully understood the strength of Hiranyavarma's alliances and the danger they posed to Panchala. Several ministers therefore suggested another course. Lord Shiva's boon had already begun to manifest. Perhaps Sikhandi should simply remain a man forever and never return to Stunakarna. But that solution carried an even greater danger. If Stunakarna realized that Sikhandi had broken the promise made to him, his wrath would be unimaginable. Being a Yaksha, Stunakarna alone possessed power greater than that of 100 Hiranyavarmas. Before the discussion could continue any further, Sikhandi ended it. To Sikhandi, there was no dilemma at all. The very question of whether to return was against Dharma. Karna had saved not only Sikhandi's life, but the honor of Panchala and the lives of countless people. Repaying that kindness with deceit was unthinkable. No matter the consequences, Sikhandi resolved to keep the promise. Drupada understood. Though his heart was heavy with fear, he placed the final decision in Sikhandi's hands.
The decision is yours.
Without hesitation, Sikhandi began the journey back to the abode of the Yaksha. Although Dronacharya fulfilled every responsibility entrusted to him, a deep emptiness remained within his heart. No matter how much he immersed himself in teaching, military affairs, or the affairs of Hastinapura, one memory refused to leave him: Ekalavya. The incident haunted him constantly. Deep within, Dronacharya knew that while he had fulfilled his promises to Bhishma and Arjuna, he had also committed a grave injustice. That regret never left him. While spending time with Arjuna, Dronacharya placed one final wish before his beloved disciple. He sought a promise that if fate ever placed guru and disciple on opposite sides of a battlefield, Arjuna would never allow his devotion to interfere with Dharma. He wanted Arjuna to fight him without hesitation, and, if Dharma demanded it, even kill him. Arjuna immediately understood the pain hidden behind that request. He recognized that his guru still carried the burden of Ekalavya's sacrifice, and accepted his guru's final wish with complete devotion. Yet Dronacharya found no peace. He buried his regret beneath his responsibilities. He continued teaching. He continued serving Hastinapur. But whenever his mind became quiet, the memory of Ekalavya returned. More than anything else, Dronacharya longed for redemption. It was during this time that a young warrior stood before him, a warrior who appeared as though fire itself had taken human form. Drishtadyumna. Soon Dronacharya learned that this was the very prince born from the sacrificial fire with the destiny of killing him. The moment he looked upon Drishtadyumna, Dronacharya was reminded of Ekalavya. To his eyes, Drishtadyumna seemed like another Ekalavya standing before him. At that very moment, Dronacharya understood that his own karma had returned to stand before him. The consequence of the injustice he had once committed had now arrived at his doorstep. Yet, instead of resisting his destiny, instead of rejecting Drishtadyumna, or waging war against the man destined to kill him, Dronacharya accepted his fate. Drishtadyumna came seeking the knowledge of Divyastras and requested to become his disciple. Dronacharya found that his heart wished to teach him. For him, denying Drishtadyumna would be no different from repeating the same mistake he had once made with Ekalavya. But one obstacle remained. As the royal guru of Hastinapura, Dronacharya was still bound by the promise he had once made to Bhishma, that the knowledge of Divyastras would remain within the Kuru kingdom. Unable to silence the conflict within his conscience any longer, Dronacharya approached Bhishma and expressed his desire to relinquish the position of Hastinapura's royal guru. The request left Bhishma utterly astonished. Never had he imagined that such words would come from Dronacharya himself. For a brief moment, Bhishma wondered whether Hastinapura had, in some way, failed to honor the man who had dedicated his life to its service. As Dronacharya unfolded the truth, his battle was not with Hastinapura, it was with his own conscience. Dronacharya confessed that ever since Ekalavya's guru Dakshina, an unbearable remorse had lived within him. He no longer wished to repeat that same injustice. Teaching Drishtadyumna had become, in his eyes, the only path toward atoning for the sin he believed he had committed. Bhishma fell into profound contemplation. If he accepted Dronacharya's resignation, Hastinapura would lose the greatest preceptor of its age. More importantly, the science of Divyastras would inevitably pass beyond the Kuru kingdom. Today it would be Drishtadyumna. Tomorrow, others would seek the same knowledge. And once mankind tasted the intoxicating power of celestial weapons, consequences were too catastrophic. Although Bhishma had exerted every effort to confine this knowledge within the kingdom, reports continued to arrive of Divyastras being wielded elsewhere. The warriors of Mathura, Krishna and Sankarshana, had used such celestial weapons against Jarasanda's army. Bhishma therefore understood that there could never be an absolute assurance that Hastinapura alone possessed this arcane science. Across Aryavarta, countless obscure rishis and munis may still have preserved its esoteric secrets, far beyond the knowledge or dominion of any kingdom. Yet the alternative was no less troubling. If Bhishma forced Dronacharya to remain bound by a promise that had become a burden upon his soul, would that itself not violate Dharma? When the promise had first been made, Dronacharya had accepted it willingly and with a pure heart. But time had transformed that sacred vow into a chain upon his conscience. A promise upheld against the will of the one who made it ceased to be Dharma. It became a compulsion. After a long silence, Bhishma arrived at his decision. He declared that if the promise itself had become the source of Dronacharya's suffering, then from that very moment he released him from it. Therefore, there was no need for Dronacharya to relinquish his position as the royal guru of Hastinapura. He was free to remain, and equally free to follow the path that Dharma now placed before him. Hearing those words, the burden that had weighed upon Dronacharya's heart for years finally lifted. With profound relief, he withdrew his decision to leave Hastinapura and resolved to continue serving the kingdom as its royal guru. Shakuni had finally completed his plan. Duryodhana could never overcome the Pandavas while they remained at the heart of the capital. The Pandavas had to be removed from Hastinapura. By the time the Pandavas returned, the very foundations of power within the capital could already belong to Duryodhana. Duryodhana was deeply impressed. He could see a path toward the throne. But how could the Pandavas be sent away from Hastinapura without anyone suspecting the true intention behind it? Shakuni already had the answer, and that answer would become the beginning of one of the most dangerous conspiracies against the Pandavas. Shakuni's mind always worked several moves, and sometimes generations ahead. What appeared outwardly as a plan to make Duryodhana the king of Hastinapura concealed a far deeper design. Shakuni understood that although Bhishma remained Hastinapura's supreme authority in practice, the official power of the throne belonged to King Regent Dhritarashtra. So the first requirement was clear, Dhritarashtra's approval. But there was another obstacle. After carefully studying everyone within the capital, Shakuni knew how formidable Vidura's intelligence network had become. Through his secret agents and deep state network, even the smallest conspiracy could eventually reach him. This time, Shakuni could afford no mistakes. If the plan was to succeed, even Vidura could not be allowed to see it coming. Shakuni began visiting Hastinapura frequently and spending more time with Dhritarashtra. But he never spoke ill of the Pandavas. Instead, he constantly exaggerated their greatness, the growing popularity of Yudhishthira, the fame of Bhima and Arjuna, and how insignificant the Kauravas were beginning to appear beside them. Though Dhritarashtra outwardly remained bound to Dharma, Shakuni had known him for decades. He knew that Dhritarashtra had once felt jealous of Pandu, and now that same jealousy was slowly turning toward Pandu's sons. In time, Dhritarashtra himself became disturbed by the Pandavas' growing popularity. That was when Kanika entered the game. Dhritarashtra privately admitted his jealousy toward the Pandavas and sought Kanika's advice on whether friendship or enmity was better. Kanika answered through his ruthless Kanika Niti. A king had to remain strong and capable of punishment so that people feared his authority. He should never reveal his own weaknesses, but constantly search for those of his enemies. When an enemy was strong, the king should patiently overlook even his vulnerabilities. But when that enemy became weak, he should strike without mercy. Outwardly, a ruler should always appear righteous and devoted to Dharma. But when circumstances demanded it, Dharma itself could be bent. According to Kanika, a king could truly live peacefully only when his enemy no longer existed. Those words pushed Dhritarashtra dangerously close to acting against the Pandavas. And then entered Duryodhana. He approached his father not as a prince demanding the throne, but as a wounded son. He expressed that his father had always favored Pandu's children over him. despite having 99 brothers and a father who ruled Hastinapura, he felt completely alone, even questioning why he had been born at all. Those words shattered Dhritarashtra. He emotionally assured Duryodhana that no one in the world was dearer to him than his own son, and repeatedly asked what he wanted, promising to do anything that would end his suffering. Only then did Duryodhana ask whether his father would do one thing for him. The next phase of Shakuni's design was to secure the allegiance of Hastinapura's most powerful men, should the rivalry between the Kauravas and Pandavas ever force everyone to choose a side. For this, Shakuni and Duryodhana traveled to northern Panchala. After taking half of Panchala from Drupada, Dronacharya had entrusted its administration to his son. Ashwatthama. Until the grand martial event, Ashwatthama had remained largely neutral in the rivalry between the Kuru cousins. But the event changed something within him. He had watched Arjuna receive extraordinary attention, endless praise, and preferential treatment, while every other warrior was made to appear secondary. Jealousy toward Arjuna quietly took root, and Shakuni noticed it. He spoke to Ashwatthama about exactly what already troubled his mind: the inequality within Hastinapura, the partiality toward the Pandavas, the glorification of Arjuna, and finally the coronation of Yudhishthira. Ashwatthama gradually came to believe that Duryodhana was the rightful heir who had been systematically suppressed by the elders. When Shakuni and Duryodhana revealed their plan to send the Pandavas away temporarily and use their absence to seize influence within the capital, Ashwatthama pledged his support. And that single allegiance was far more valuable than it appeared. Shakuni's calculation was precise. Where Ashwatthama stood, his father, Dronacharya, would eventually stand, for Drona would never abandon his son. Where Dronacharya and Ashwatthama stood, Kripacharya, Drona's brother-in-law and maternal uncle of Ashwatthama, would inevitably gravitate toward the same side. Bhishma, as Hastinapura's supreme guardian, could never openly reduce himself to the partisan of either branch of the Kuru family. He would remain neutral. That would leave only Vidura firmly behind the Pandavas. And against the combined weight of Dronacharya, Ashwatthama, Kripacharya, Duryodhana and his allies, Vidura's influence alone would no longer be enough. One journey to northern Panchala had potentially shifted the entire balance of Hastinapura. Meanwhile, another part of Shakuni's design was already taking shape. Purochana, one of Duryodhana's most trusted counselors, was entrusted with constructing a magnificent residence at Varanavata for the Pandavas. Duryodhana wanted no compromise in luxury. Everything the Pandavas enjoyed in Hastinapura had to be available there, so comfortable that they would have no reason to miss the capital or contemplate an early return. Following these instructions, Purochana traveled to Varanavata and began construction. While the residence slowly took shape, the second part of the plan began in Hastinapura. Dhritarashtra and several ministers repeatedly praised Varanavata in the presence of the Pandavas. They spoke of its beauty and prosperity, the magnificent festival of Pashupati being celebrated there, the enormous crowds gathering from different regions, and celebrations said to be unlike anything elsewhere. The praise continued so naturally and so frequently that curiosity eventually arose within the Pandavas themselves. Only then did Dhritarashtra casually suggest that they visit Varanavata, enjoy the festivities for some time, distribute gifts among the people, and return to Hastinapura afterward. Unable to openly oppose Dhritarashtra's wish, Yudhishthira accepted. And exactly as Shakuni had anticipated, the information reached Vidura. Vidura immediately deciphered what appeared to be the conspiracy. The Pandavas were being removed from the capital so that Duryodhana could use their absence to consolidate influence over Hastinapura's powerful officials and administrators. But that was precisely what Shakuni wanted Vidura to believe. Vidura immediately prepared his countermeasure. He identified every influential figure whom Duryodhana might persuade, pressure, or bring to his side. Before the Pandavas even departed, Vidura began assigning those men to different responsibilities in different places, scattering them through official duties and keeping them occupied, far from Duryodhana's reach. When Duryodhana eventually moved to secure their allegiance, the very people he needed would already be unavailable. Vidura believed he was dismantling Shakuni's conspiracy before it could begin. But unknowingly, he was countering the plan Shakuni had deliberately placed before his eyes. Days passed, and eventually the Pandavas decided to spend some time in Varanavata, accompanied by their mother, Kunti. Dhritarashtra assured them that everything required for their journey and stay would be arranged. Before departing, Yudhishthira respectfully approached the elders of Hastinapura and sought their blessings. To almost everyone, this appeared to be nothing more than a royal visit to a prosperous town during the magnificent Pashupati festival. Only Vidura sensed that something more dangerous lay beneath the surface. The Pandavas and Kunti finally departed for Varanavata. Upon their arrival, the people of the town welcomed them with tremendous enthusiasm. Waiting among them was Purochana. The magnificent residence he had been ordered to construct, the Lakshagriha, was already complete. Yet Purochana remained exceedingly careful. Introducing himself as the man personally appointed by King Regent Dhritarashtra to look after their every requirement, he treated the Pandavas as honored royal guests. But he did not immediately take them to the Lakshagriha. For approximately the first 10 nights, Purochana accommodated them elsewhere under his hospitality. During those days, the Pandavas traveled through Varanavata, visited different places across the town, witnessed its prosperity and festivities, and gradually became accustomed to their new surroundings. Only afterward, Purochana brought them to the magnificent residence specially constructed for them. His conduct remained impeccable. Luxurious chambers, excellent food, comfortable beds, and every form of royal hospitality they had enjoyed in Hastinapura. Nothing about Purochana's behavior gave the Pandavas an obvious reason to distrust him. Days passed peacefully. Then Kunti organized a great feast at the Lakshagriha. large numbers of poor people from around Varanavata were welcomed inside and generously fed. People belonging to different Varnas attended the feast, filling the residence with celebration. Some ate to their satisfaction, while others remained behind, enjoying themselves and drinking Madeira. For everyone inside, the Lakshagriha appeared to be nothing more than a magnificent royal residence filled with hospitality and celebration. The very next day, an informer arrived before Vidura, carrying devastating news from Varanavata.
My lord, the Pandavas are dead.
Vidura's heart sank in disbelief. Within no time, the horrifying news reached the royal palace, and chaos erupted throughout Hastinapura. Everyone was utterly stunned. The Pandavas, who had gone to Varanavata merely to enjoy the festivities for a few days, had reportedly perished along with their mother, Kunti, in a sudden and catastrophic fire. The Lakshagriha had caught fire unexpectedly during the night. The flames had consumed the entire residence. Kunti and all 5 Pandavas had been burned alive within it. The news spread from the palace into the streets of Hastinapura with terrifying speed. Ministers, warriors, elders, and common people, everyone who heard it was shaken. Within a single night, Hastinapura believed it had lost Kunti and all 5 sons of Pandu. The news sent shockwaves throughout the entire kingdom, except for 2 men, Shakuni and Duryodhana. Because removing the Pandavas from the capital had never been the real plan. The real plan was to remove them forever. Shakuni's master plan had been constructed in layers. The outer layer, sending the Pandavas away so Duryodhana could seize influence in Hastinapura, was deliberately created for Vidura to discover. Shakuni knew Vidura's secret network would uncover it, while Vidura was busy protecting Hastinapura's ministers and influential officials from Duryodhana. The deeper and far deadlier layer of Shakuni's design could proceed unnoticed. The Pandavas were never meant to return from Varanavata. Purochana had not merely been sent to construct a luxurious residence. His true assignment was far more sinister. The Lakshagriha was secretly built using lac, oil, clarified butter, fat, hemp, wood, and other highly inflammable substances, concealed so cleverly within its walls and structure that even careful examination would not immediately reveal the danger. And Purochana had executed the task perfectly. To everyone else, it was a magnificent palace. In reality, it was a funeral pyre disguised as one. While Vidura believed he was defeating Shakuni's conspiracy in Hastinapura, Shakuni's real plan had been unfolding in Varanavata. Soon, everyone's worst fears appeared to be confirmed. Among the smoldering ashes of the Lakshagriha, 6 completely burnt bodies were discovered. To everyone who saw them, there seemed to be only one conclusion. Kunti and the 5 Pandavas were dead. Grief spread everywhere. But Vidura was completely shattered. Yet something unexpected had happened even in Shakuni and Duryodhana's carefully constructed plan. In another part of the burnt Lakshagriha, a 7th body was found. Duryodhana identified it as Purochana. That surprised him. Purochana was supposed to ignite the Lakshagriha at the right moment and escape before the flames consumed it. Instead, he too had apparently been trapped inside and burned alive. For a moment, Duryodhana wondered what had gone wrong. But before that doubt could grow, the overwhelming happiness of believing that the Pandavas were finally dead eclipsed every suspicion in his mind. Purochana's death appeared to be nothing more than an unfortunate accident within an otherwise successful plan. But could the Pandavas really die? Could the sons of gods themselves simply perish inside a burning palace? Did they discover the conspiracy before the fire began? And if they did, who warned them? Who helped them escape? Then whose 6 bodies were found inside the Lakshagriha? And why was Purochana himself among the dead? While the entire Hastinapura believed that the Pandavas were gone forever, the truth of what actually happened that night in Varanavata was still buried beneath the ashes. Shakuni believed his master plan had succeeded. He believed the 5 Pandavas and their mother Kunti had perished inside the Lakshagriha. But the truth was far more intricate. Purochana's mission was not merely to construct the Lakshagriha. To the world, he built a magnificent royal residence. In reality, he secretly constructed a gigantic funeral pyre. But even that was not his only task. Purochana employed 2 separate groups of workers, one to build the Lakshagriha and another to build a ship. Once both were completed, every worker who knew the secret construction of the Lakshagriha was sent away aboard that ship. The ship was deliberately sunk. Every witness was meant to die, ensuring that no one could ever reveal the conspiracy. But fate intervened. One worker survived. Realizing the sinking had been a planned massacre, and that even his own relatives had been murdered to protect the secret, he secretly passed the information to Vidura. Until then, Vidura had sensed that a conspiracy existed, but did not know its true nature. Even before the Pandavas left Hastinapura, Vidura had secretly warned Yudhishthira in coded words, saying that a creature in danger escapes through an underground passage. Through this message, he hinted that the journey to Varanavata was dangerous, that a hidden trap awaited them, and that they must always remain prepared with a means of escape. Yudhishthira silently signaled that he understood the warning. After receiving the survivors' information, Vidura finally uncovered the entire conspiracy. He now knew that the Lakshagriha itself was the death trap, yet he did not expose the plot publicly. Dhritarashtra himself had sent the Pandavas to Varanavata,
and Vidura did not know how many people within Hastinapura were involved. So instead of confronting the conspiracy, he created another secret plan to defeat it. He first hid the surviving worker so that Shakuni and Purochana would never learn that someone had escaped the sunken ship. Then he secretly dispatched 2 trusted men to Varanavata, Kanitraka, a master miner, and Taraka, an experienced boatman. Before the Pandavas even entered the Lakshagriha, Kanitraka secretly began digging an underground tunnel. Starting from the riverbank instead of the palace, he dug toward the Lakshagriha so that Purochana would never suspect the excavation. Meanwhile, Taraka remained beside the river with a boat, waiting day and night without knowing when the Pandavas would emerge. The moment the Pandavas entered the Lakshagriha, Yudhishthira immediately sensed the smell of the highly inflammable materials hidden within its walls and realized that this was the trap Vidura had warned him about. On the very first day the Pandavas entered the Lakshagriha, Kanitraka secretly reached them without Purochana's knowledge and informed them about the escape plan through an underground tunnel that was still under construction. To prove that he had truly come from Vidura, he repeated the same coded words Vidura had whispered into Yudhishthira's ear before they left Hastinapura. At once, Yudhishthira understood. Kanitraka then revealed the entire rescue plan. The tunnel now connected the Lakshagriha directly to the riverbank, where Taraka waited with a boat. From that moment onward, the Pandavas knew that although they were living inside a palace built to burn them alive, Vidura had already prepared an escape route beneath their enemy's own death trap. The Pandavas never revealed that they knew the truth. Before Purochana, they behaved as though they suspected nothing. They spent their days hunting and traveling through the countryside around Varanavata, carefully memorizing the forests, roads, and escape routes, while convincing Purochana that his conspiracy remained completely undiscovered. They also made sure that all 5 brothers were never inside the Lakshagriha at the same time. Sometimes Arjuna would leave for hunting. Sometimes Bhima would spend the day at the festival. At other times, Nakula or Sahadeva would be away from the residence. Even during the nights, Bhima or Arjuna would often remain outside until dawn. The Pandavas knew that Purochana would never ignite the Lakshagriha until he was certain that all of them were inside. This continued for many days. During this time, they secretly met Kanitraka only on rare occasions to receive updates on the tunnel. Finally, Kanitraka informed them that the tunnel would be completed by that evening. Meanwhile, Purochana was under increasing pressure. Duryodhana's messages arrived one after another, demanding to know why the task had still not been completed and ordering him to finish it immediately. Unable to delay any longer, Purochana resolved to execute the plan that very night. He purchased a large quantity of Madira and presented it to the Pandavas, claiming it was a special day and that he wished to offer it to them as a gesture of goodwill. Yudhishthira instantly understood. Purochana intended to burn the Lakshagriha that very night, but the Pandavas needed one more night for the tunnel to be completed. So, Yudhishthira immediately countered the plan. He told Purochana that Kunti had already announced a grand annadana, where many people would gather for food, and suggested that the Madira could also be served to those who wished to drink. Purochana was deeply disappointed. He realized he could not execute his plan with so many people present. Soon, Nakula and Sahadeva spread the announcement throughout Varanavata, inviting everyone to the feast. That day, hundreds were fed. Many remained behind, drinking the Madira late into the night. Among them was a Nishada woman and her 5 sons. After eating and drinking heavily,
they became intoxicated and fell unconscious inside the Lakshagriha. That night, a powerful wind swept across Varanavata. Instead of waiting for Purochana to strike first, Yudhishthira decided to turn the trap against its creator. By then, Purochana had fallen asleep. Around midnight, Kanitraka emerged inside the Lakshagriha through the completed tunnel. Kunti, Nakula, and Sahadeva immediately entered the underground passage. Then, Bhima set fire to the section where Purochana was sleeping. At the same time, Yudhishthira and Arjuna ignited several other parts of the palace. The intense heat soon awakened Purochana. He saw flames consuming the Lakshagriha from every direction. He desperately tried to escape, but there was no escape. The very trap he had designed for the Pandavas had become his own prison. Unable to break free, Purochana was engulfed by the raging inferno and burned to death inside the very funeral pyre he had created for the Pandavas. Within moments, the lac, oil, clarified butter, fat, hemp, and timber feeding the structure erupted into a gigantic inferno, transforming the magnificent palace into the very funeral pyre it had always been designed to become. While the entire Lakshagriha burned above them, Kunti and the 5 Pandavas, accompanied by Kanitraka, vanished beneath the earth through the secret tunnel. As the flames raged overhead, they pressed forward through the underground passage. The long journey gradually exhausted Kunti and the Pandavas. Without slowing for a moment, Bhima carried his mother and all the Pandavas and ran relentlessly through the tunnel. After some time, they finally emerged at the tunnel's hidden exit and reached Taraka. Without delay, he ferried them safely across the river. Kanitraka stayed and destroyed the entrance of the tunnel. Upon reaching the opposite bank, the Pandavas disappeared silently into the depths of the forest, leaving behind a burning palace and a kingdom that believed they were dead. The 6 bodies discovered among the ashes were not those of the Pandavas. They were the bodies of the Nishad woman and her 5 sons, but no one knew that, not even Vidura. By the time the news of the fire reached Hastinapura, no word had yet arrived from Kanitraka or Taraka that the Pandavas had escaped through the underground tunnel. Seeing 6 completely burnt bodies, Vidura too believed the worst. He thought the Pandavas and Kunti had perished despite all his efforts. A deep regret overwhelmed him. He blamed himself for not revealing the entire conspiracy to Yudhishthira the moment he learned the truth. He wished he had openly warned the Pandavas and immediately brought them back to Hastinapura instead of relying upon a secret rescue plan. Believing that he had failed to save the sons of Pandu, Vidura was left completely heartbroken. As Vidura continued investigating the conspiracy, more disturbing truths slowly emerged. He learned that the plot had involved not only Shakuni and Duryodhana, but also Dusasana and Karna. The revelation deeply shocked him. With the Pandavas seemingly gone, and Karna now standing firmly beside Duryodhana, even in one of his darkest conspiracies, Vidura realized that Karna was no longer judging events independently through his own sense of dharma. His unwavering loyalty to Duryodhana had begun to outweigh his own judgment of right and wrong. For Vidura, this made the future of Hastinapura even more frightening. If Duryodhana now possessed the support of a formidable power like Karna, the kingdom itself could gradually fall under his complete influence. Yet, despite the grief and guilt consuming him, Vidura refused to abandon hope. Deep within his heart, he continued praying that one day a messenger would arrive, bringing the news he longed to hear, that the Pandavas had escaped the deadly conspiracy and were still alive. Vidura's hope did not remain unanswered for long. Soon, Kanitraka secretly reached him and conveyed the news he had been yearning to hear. The Pandavas had escaped safely. The moment Vidura heard those words, the immense burden of guilt he had carried since the fire at the Lakshagriha finally lifted from his heart. Finally, Vidura found peace and once again became fully alert and resumed his role within the capital. Outwardly, he behaved as though he knew nothing, but inwardly, he continued watching every move of the Dushta Chatushtaya, patiently waiting for the right moment to protect the sons of Pandu once again. Sikhandi finally arrived at the magnificent abode of Yaksha Stunakarna, determined to fulfill the promise he had made. He had returned to restore Stunakarna's masculinity and reclaim his own femininity, believing that his duty had been fulfilled and that it was now time to honor his word. But the moment Stunakarna saw Sikhandi, he revealed that something unexpected had happened after Sikhandi had left with his masculinity. Kubera, the lord of the Yakshas, arrived there with his attendants. As was customary, every Yaksha came forward to receive their lord. Only one Yaksha remained absent, Stunakarna. Instead of appearing before Kubera, Stunakarna remained hidden inside his dwelling. His absence immediately caught Kubera's attention. Curious, Kubera questioned the other Yakshas. At first, they hesitated, but eventually they revealed everything. They explained how Stunakarna had compassionately given his own masculinity to Sikhandi, accepted femininity in return, and saved both Sikhandi and the kingdom of Panchala. Kubera was enraged. In his eyes, no Yaksha possessed the authority to give away such a divine attribute. As punishment, Kubera pronounced a curse. From that moment onward, Stunakarna would remain a woman, and Sikhandi would remain a man. With that single curse, what had begun as a temporary exchange became permanent. The assembled Yakshas immediately pleaded with Kubera for mercy. They reminded him that Stunakarna had acted not out of selfishness, but out of compassion to save another's life. Gradually, Kubera's anger subsided. Though he did not withdraw the curse, he softened it. He declared that Stunakarna would remain a woman only for as long as Sikhandi lived. After Shikhandi's death, the masculinity would automatically return to Stunakarna. Sikhandi was shocked to find that there was no way to reverse the exchange anymore. The transformation had become permanent. Stunakarna comforted Sikhandi, assuring him that there was no reason to carry guilt, for the curse itself had fulfilled what Lord Shiva had once foretold. Deeply moved by Stunakarna's sacrifice, Sikhandi expressed heartfelt gratitude before leaving the forest. From that day onward, Sikhandi will remain a man for the rest of his life, and Stunakarna will remain a woman until the day Shikhandi's life came to an end. The Pandavas continued their journey without pause. They knew it would not take long for the Kauravas to discover the fire at the Lakshagriha. Even if the world believed them dead, They could not risk being found anywhere near Varanavata. So they pressed deeper into the wilderness. Avoiding villages, avoiding roads, they chose only the densest forests as their refuge. Hour after hour they walked through the darkness. The relentless journey gradually exhausted everyone. Kunti had walked farther than she ever had in her life. Nakula and Sahadeva could barely continue. Even Yudhishthira and Arjuna, seasoned warriors though they were, began to lose their strength. Only Bhima remained tireless. Without a moment's hesitation, he lifted his weary mother and brothers, carrying them upon his mighty shoulders and arms as though their weight were nothing. Throughout the night, Bhima strode through the forest with astonishing speed, his powerful strides resembling those of a mighty elephant carving its own path through the wilderness. The others simply endured the journey, trusting entirely in Bhima's strength. After many hours, Kunti's thirst became unbearable. The Pandavas, too, were parched and exhausted. Realizing they could go no farther without water, Bhima set out alone in search of it. As he moved through the forest, he noticed the calls of cranes and water birds echoing through the night. From experience, he knew such birds rarely strayed far from water. Following their cries, Bhima soon discovered a serene lake hidden amidst the forest. He first quenched his own thirst. Then, using broad lotus leaves as makeshift vessels, he carefully filled them with water and hurried back. While Bhima was away, the exhaustion proved too great. Kunti and the Pandavas collapsed beneath the vast shade of an ancient banyan tree. Within moments, they fell into a deep sleep upon the bare earth. When Bhima returned, he stood silently before them. His eyes rested upon his mother, and then upon each of his brothers. Only days earlier, they had lived as princes of Hastinapura, surrounded by magnificent palaces, royal comforts, and countless attendants. Now, they slept upon the cold ground like homeless wanderers, driven into exile by treachery. The sight ignited a fierce fire within Bhima's heart. His anger toward Duryodhana, Shakuni, and Dhritarashtra burned more intensely than ever before. In that silent forest, Bhima made a solemn resolve. One day, those responsible for this injustice would answer for it. Yet he did not allow anger to overcome his duty. While his mother and brothers slept peacefully, Bhima remained awake. Standing guard through the night, he alone became the vigilant protector between his family and the dangers of the forest. Thus ended one of the darkest chapters in the history of the Mahabharata. Shakuni and Duryodhana believed they had finally eliminated the greatest obstacle to the throne. Only one man knew the truth: Vidura. The Pandavas had gained something far more valuable than even they realized. Something they had never possessed before: invisibility. To the world, they were dead. No kingdom would search for them. No spies would look for them. No assassins would hunt them. Hidden behind the illusion of their own deaths, the Pandavas could now move across Bharata unseen, while their enemies remained convinced that their greatest victory had already been achieved. The game for the throne of Hastinapura had only just begun. And from this moment onward, every move made in the shadows would shape the destiny of Bharata forever.